I hate wasted potential in all of its forms. It's always such a shame that it'll exist as a what if. Like for me, I should have been a professional basketball player. I was destined for greatness in the NBA. I was biologically engineered to be a weapon out there, wreaking havoc on the court, with all the mechanical skill of Jason Kidd and a beautiful three-point shot like Ray Allen. How could I not have been running rampant out there? But unfortunately, I stopped growing at 5'6". Nature had some other nefarious plans for me, so my perfect three-pointer, well, at 5'6", pretty much any NBA player could block that with their nutsack. So that'll always just be a case of wasted potential. And with that long-winded introduction out of the way, just to set the stage on how much I despise wasted potential, I want to talk about Uzumaki. And by extension, Ninja Kamui. And by extension, the Rick and Morty anime, which I don't think had any potential at all. There was no juice in that squeeze that they were going for there, but all of this falls under Adult Swim's anime catalog that they've pushed out for 2024, and all of them have been a letdown. I'm just gonna say it. Ninja Kamui and Uzumaki had so much momentum. Ninja Kamui had 3 incredible episodes. I would even argue the first episode is close to like a masterpiece. And then it falls off a fucking cliff. Uzumaki's first episode was a phenomenon. People were talking about that, raving about it on Twitter, super excited for the rest because it's a beloved Junji Ito classic that got a super impressive adaptation, finally. And then episode 2 rolls out and it falls off a fucking cliff. And then the Rick and Morty anime, which nobody in the world wanted, nobody was asking for, comes out, has no potential at all, and still just sucks super shit. And all of them share one common thread, one through line. Adult Swim. Now, I'm not really blaming Adult Swim. I actually think in 2 of these cases it's bad luck. The Rick and Morty anime was just a bad idea from the get-go. But with the case of Ninja Kamui and Uzumaki, I don't exactly know what happened with Ninja Kamui. They just ran out of budget after the first 3 episodes, and then it went from like this really high-quality action, fighting, like hand-to-hand fun combat show to like this dog shit, bottom-of-the-barrel garbage generic mecha anime they tried. So that pivot was disastrous, and I don't think Adult Swim told them to do that or anything. It was just unlucky that it decided to shoot itself in the face. Like, it was a disaster, and I don't think anyone really liked the mecha element to Ninja Kamui. I never even bothered finishing it because it sucked so much ass. It was blowing farts out of crazy straw. And with Uzumaki, I also don't really think it's Adult Swim's fault because there was actually a peek behind the curtain on what happened with the disastrous animation flop from episodes 2 to 4. So one of the producers, Jason DeMarco, made a statement saying, "After waiting so long, it makes sense people would be mad. Unfortunately, I can't tell them who to blame it on, but someone is definitely at fault here, and we all just had to do our best when things imploded. Maybe others would have made different choices. We did the best we could with what we had, but again, a lot of people worked very hard on the show, and I didn't think the actions of just 1 or 2 people should be the reason it never saw the light of day." This was in response to everyone with eyes noticing how horrible episode 2 was compared to 1 in terms of quality and the animation. And he says that a large part of the animation team was dismantled and they were left with 3 options. First, abandon and cancel the project. Second, finish the first episode and just consider it incomplete. And third, the option they eventually chose, finish the 4 episodes as they were and just push them out. Those aren't really easy choices. That's like choosing between poop, shit, and a fart. There isn't really a winning move in that scenario, but I do think choosing to do all 4 episodes was the right one. Because if they only did the first one, I think that would have been significantly worse. I know I would have been much more disappointed with that. And if they just canceled it, I think that would have just been disastrous as well. I think people like myself were very excited to see this. And even though what we got was lackluster after the first episode, it's still a good show. It's just such a shame that it wasn't able to keep that level of quality due to some internal turmoil that must have unfolded. And from the sound of it, it doesn't seem like that was an Adult Swim decision that happened there. So I think that's just another unlucky moment for them in their anime catalog. But for those of you that haven't seen Uzumaki, I do highly encourage you to watch it. It's still a good show with a really good story, and it's a very fun, surreal show about the spiral, the curse of the spiral. But I do want to show you Episode 2, the most infamous clip from Episode 2 to showcase how bad the animation is.
Come back here! Hasadori! Stop right there!
I can't run any further.
Yoriko, you little twerp! How many times is it gonna take to beat some sense into you?
This shit looks like when I used to play with action figures and I'd make them run like foot by foot like that. It is horrible, and unfortunately, episodes 2, 3, and 4 mostly look like that. There are moments that look better. Like, sometimes there are moments where it must have been, like, fully finished, but a lot of the time it just feels very incomplete like that. Like, one of the final scenes of the show is actually just a still image, like a PNG falling downward, and falling I'm using incorrectly because it's not even like anyone's falling. What's supposed to happen is someone is falling down a giant hole, but what you get is a still image being moved downward. It just sucks because the show had such a strong start and it is such a beloved story that it would have just been such a hit. It was so close. If it could have just maintained that level of quality from episode 1, this probably would have been one of the greats of the year. But now it's just a case of wasted potential. I still did enjoy it, and I think a lot of people still will. The visuals are still great. I mean, it's Junji Ito. They at least still got the visuals there. It's just the animation on all of it's kind of trash. You're better off probably just reading the manga at that point. The fucking manga has smoother animation than the anime now. It's just disappointing. These two shows, Ninja Kamui and Uzumaki, I really liked when I started them because they were great. I was glazing Ninja Kamui's cheeks left and right on stream, saying this is probably going to be one of the best anime of the year, you gotta check this out, and then I look like an absolute fucking clown, a fool, when episode 4 hits. And I think episode 4 is also when they brought in, like, AI-generated art during one of the scenes. They had, like, a 45-second streak of just showing AI-generated art in the anime. It was weird. And then it turns into the mecha, and it's trash. So, like, that hurts, because if they had just kept that direction and that same level of quality that they had for the first 3 episodes, that could have been one of the best anime of the year. And Uzumaki, if it had the same level of quality as episode 1, that could have been one of the best anime of the year. And Rick and Morty the anime, that was always going to be one of the worst anime of the year. That was such a fucking terrible decision to even try that. Never do that again. What we got was even worse than I could have possibly imagined for a Rick and Morty anime. I didn't finish it. I already told you I was going to abandon it. Usually I'll finish a dogshit show like that just kind of out of spite and to see if it ever gets fun bad. That one was miserable. Truly miserable. Adult Swim, that was a huge miss. But overall, I do think Adult Swim is going in a fun direction. A good idea of taking shows like Ninja Kamui and Uzumaki and trying to bring them to life. I think it's just unlucky how both of those played out. But I hope that they continue down this path so that 2025 Adult Swim anime is just hitting and shitting hard with no hiccups and delivers some bangers. Because I think, I've said this before, I think we're in the golden age of animation right now. There are so many new studios that are popping up with so much talent that we are getting incredibly high quality productions left and right. Like, just right now, the fall catalog for anime is incredible. Like, we are getting some great shit. So, I'm just looking forward to more coming out from it. And I just wanted to talk about these two shows because it is a shame to see potential like those wasted. That's really about it. So, yeah. Some of the most important moments of your life that shape who you are as a person are the moments that you do something for the first time. Your first meal that was more than just mashed carrots and breast milk, your first birthday, your first time going to school, your first time hitting a 3-point jump shot buzzer beater in a high-stakes basketball game, your first kiss, your first friend, your first enemy. I still remember my first online critic. Shoutouts to Boney Tony from the GameFAQ.com forums. You diabolical son of a bitch. I will never forgive you for the things you used to say about my Battlefield Bad Company 2 Fun Tactics videos. You revolting bastard. You're still on my naughty list. Point is, life is a journey of firsts. And today, I'm taking another step on that journey by doing a first for my channel. I'm going to just be going full-blown gushing grannies on something that I think is criminally underappreciated right now. I don't ever do this because I feel like there's just not a lot of things that are genuinely underrated. I see this trend a lot with YouTubers and Reddit in particular in a big way. This is a goddamn full-blown epidemic on Reddit and has been since its inception, where they'll be like, does anyone else remember this little obscure diamond? And then it's a picture of like Red Dead Redemption. Or, I bet none of you remember this hidden gem, it just never got the love it deserved. And then it's a picture of Star Wars Battlefront 2. Like, people choose these things and pretend like they were underrated just so it feels more special, when 9 times out of 10 that's not the case. So when I talk about something being underrated, it's something that I genuinely feel most people aren't talking about, haven't talked about, or maybe don't know about, or maybe they forgot about. So that's today's topic, because there is a show that just finished for the season that I really feel most people let slide under the radar for some reason. And I just think that's such a shame, because it does something I've never seen a show do before, which is taking a huge risk in changing everything about it in a big way. And it worked off magnificently if people had only given it a chance. Now, the show I'm talking about is probably one you have heard of, because season 1 was huge. It's an anime called Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga Season 1 was up there with Demon Slayer in terms of how talked about it was. And it's a show that gets my dog excited too. Isn't that right, Tetra? I know, it's a banger. It is a banger, I know. And everyone liked the season of Vinland Saga. First season was a smashing success, and Season 2 was rolling around with people hyped for it. But after a handful of episodes, the vast majority of people just dropped it, abandoned it, and never went back and forgot about it. In the wise words of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, 50,000 people used to love this show. Now it's a ghost town. And I feel like that's absolutely sinful. Vinland Saga Season 1 and Season 2 is night and day. Season 2 is absolutely nothing like Season 1, which I imagine is why most people dropped it, because I don't even know why I'm speculating. That is why most people dropped it, because a lot of them called it boring. Season 1 of this show is very action-oriented. It follows the story of Thorfinn, who's a very young child, the son of a very powerful Viking, who watches his dad die right in front of him and swears that he is going to dedicate his life to kill the man responsible, Askeladd. And he joins Askeladd's team, perpetually training to be strong enough to kill him, because Askeladd is a very strong warrior and Thorfinn needs to train hard in order to get that revenge. So season 1 is all about Thorfinn training to kill Askeladd. It's a story of revenge at any cost. He dedicates his life from the time where he's a child to the time where he's a young adult just killing. He's killing for Askeladd and part of his crew in order to get the experience, become strong enough to finally eventually kill Askeladd to avenge the death of his father. And all of Season 1 is very focused on this relationship between Askeladd and Thorfinn. It's a really well-written show. It's not just mindless action. They are great characters. I still think Askeladd is one of the best villains anime's really ever seen, and he was only here for 1 season. I don't want to get into spoilers, but in order to talk about why Season 2 flopped for so many people, I have to. So, spoiler warning, Season 1 ends with Askeladd dying, and Thorfinn was not the one to kill him. So this leaves a void in the soul of Thorfinn, because he spent his whole life with one goal in mind. He is actually he is a single-celled organism, and that cell is fucking vengeance. He wants to kill Askeladd no matter what. That was his whole reason for existing. And now, he watched Askeladd die and he didn't get to do it. Thus, he'll never be able to actually avenge his father. It also leaves him feeling more confused than I was at the end of Inception. He spent his whole life just trying to kill Askeladd, wanting to kill Askeladd, but he also spent his whole life with him, training with him, eating with him, battling with him. It kind of became like Askeladd was his father figure. So he was also just kind of heartbroken to see him die as well. So it was a whole wave of conflicted feelings on everything, and Thorfinn was broken from it. Season 1 ends with that. Season 2 picks up a little bit into the future, and we're looking at a very different Thorfinn. He's hollow, he's empty, he's a fucking shell of a man, he's a husk. He's now a slave on a farm, doing labor with no real purpose for living, and we get to learn about Thorfinn and watch him kind of figure himself out. Season 2 has almost no action. It is very much focused on being a character piece of Thorfinn and following his journey from just a killing machine a damn near ass-beaten immortal deity of cheek clapping on the battlefield, to now being a farmer. He is a slave, and he's coming to terms with all of the evils that he's taken part in, and it makes him sick. Eventually, he does, I don't want to get into big spoilers here, but he does reconcile, like, the things he did is unforgivable, and he wants to dedicate his life to helping people instead of killing people. Season 2 is all about this journey with Thorfinn, and a lot happens throughout there. There is action, there is fighting, but not nearly to the level of Season 1. It's not the focal point anymore. And that's why most people found it boring. Like, I don't even think there's a single fight until, like, episode 7, and it's like a small-scale one. It is not at all an action series anymore. And for a lot of people, that sucked fuck. They were really upset about it. You can see a lot of people talking about how boring it is every single week until they eventually drop it, and now they look back on the series poorly. They think it's shitty. They don't like the direction it went. A lot of people view it like it was the vegetables of the meal. Like they had a beautiful, succulent entree for season 1 of Vinland Saga, and now they're stuck here eating the Brussels sprouts and the kale. And they didn't like the taste of it. And I think that sucks, because what Vinland Saga did with Season 2, I find extremely brave, and it is a masterclass in character development. I've never seen character development like this in an anime before, period. They took a character who was very one-dimensional in Season 1. He just wants revenge. That's it. They spent the entire season driving that home. Now, there is some character development to Thorfinn throughout Season 1, but not like in a tremendous way. From the start of the show to the end of the show, he wants to be a warrior. He wants to kill. He wants to avenge his dad. And it stays that way for the whole season. And he'll do anything to do it. Kill everyone, kill anyone, doesn't matter. He'll fucking slam 2 innocent civilians' heads together like Stone Cold's beer, blowing their skulls wide open if it means that he gets a little closer to killing Askeladd. It didn't matter to him. Season 2, that character's not there anymore. It is a completely different Thorfinn. And they explore it in such an amazing way. It gets so deep and philosophical. Like, I've never seen an anime even bother going as hard as this one does for a character arc. And it's not just Thorfinn, he is the focus, but every character that surrounds him is either the perfect foil or a perfect view of, like, the old Thorfinn. Because there are other people around him that only want to kill. And there's very strong warriors around him, and they do fight. And there's just so much to Season 2. I don't want to get into spoilers because I really do recommend it. I just think it's heartbreaking to see a show that put such an emphasis on doing something special and then getting shit on for it. Now, of course, there are still people that call this Peakland Saga, talking about how it's like the best season in anime, but that's not the majority of people. Most people probably watch anime just for the sake of action and fights, because that's kind of what the medium gets known for in, like, a mainstream audience, and there's nothing wrong with that. I want to make it clear, if you don't like the slow burn character piece of Season 2 of Vinland Saga, you're not wrong for it. It's not, I'm not coming over here as like the opinion police spitting on you for it, for not being sophisticated enough to appreciate good writing or whatever. I just find it a bit sad and even a little surprising that more people didn't appreciate this direction, because they took a character that, again, is very simple, and they fleshed them out over the course of an entire season to make them an extremely impressively deep character. Flawed, fleshed out, and really goes through this journey of struggle and self-realization that I haven't seen really explored in a mainstream anime before. And just so many people write it off as boring or uninteresting, saying how it fell off, and it hurts to see, I guess. I think Season 2 of Vinland Saga is extraordinary. I love Season 1. I still think the action in Season 1 is absolutely fantastic. And there is action in Season 2, and I think it's good. I think they still do a great job with it, but again, it's very rare. And when the action is there, that shit is still slapping. But again, that is not what's front and center here. I really appreciated the risk they took, because they didn't just take a risk and then fall flat on their face. I really think they nailed it. I think they absolutely fucking crushed it. It is a beautiful character piece. Well, and not just one character. Every character in Season 2 is really good for the most part. It's just one of those things where, you know, it's basically like if a restaurant changed its menu without letting the customers know. So Vinland Saga Season 1 was serving up fucking ass on the menu, and that was a real succulent, juicy set of cheeks. And then you come back to Vinland Saga restaurant for Season 2 expecting ass, but this time you're getting tits. And you're like, well, I was more of an ass guy. That's kind of what has happened here with Vinland Saga. And for me, I think the ass and the tits are both great. I really, really do think Season 2 of Vinland Saga is something special that if most people had just given a chance, would have really come to enjoy. There is no shortage of just mindless action anime. There is no shortage of just fucking turn your brain off, shove popcorn in your face shonen, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that, just having a good time with it. But this is one of the few anime that actually gets very, very thought-provoking and very deep on a level that most don't even dare to go. So I just think Vinland Saga Season 2 is criminally underrated and overhated by people that just found it boring. So yeah, anyway, I just want to talk about it a little bit because it's been on my mind since I finished the season finale a few days ago. I was going to make a moist meter for it, but I felt like that just wouldn't do it justice. I really wanted to dive in even deeper here and explain why I think it is a very, very good season of anime that most people aren't even giving a chance. So yeah, that's really about it. See ya. I'm not a hero, but I'm going to pretend to be one for a moment. I'm going to go where no man has gone before. A place where God prayed his children would never find. The last page of myanimelist.com. Much like Indiana Jones, I've been consumed with the idea of discovery. I want to find and watch the worst anime ever made. Like the objective biggest pile of dog shit ever for anime. And what better place to start than rank 12,638 on my anime list. This is the lowest rating on the entire site. Everything below this is unrated, so it either never came out or just doesn't exist. So the lowest one here is Tinku Danzai Skelter plus Heaven. So the mission is pretty simple, and there's a very clear starting point here for my noble crusade. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and I'm not a pussy, so I'm gonna take that first step no problem. Now, unlike Indiana Jones, I won't be shielding my eyes when I open the Ark of the Covenant here with the worst anime on this site. I'm going to pop this bitch open and just embrace this miasma of filth as it melts my flesh with how god-awful I already know Helter Skeven, whatever the fuck it's called, Tinku Danzai, Seltzer, whatever the fuck. I already know it's going to be bad. But going into this, the one right above it is actually what I want to talk about first. There are some confusing and wacky little tiddlywinks of trash on this list that pretty much no one would consider anime. Not because they're elitist, but because they're like 2-minute YouTube poop shorts, like this. This piece of content here is 2 minutes and 50 seconds-ish, and it's on YouTube.
This girl is Sayuri. Sayuri! This creature is Sayuri's mama. Mama! This creature is Sayuri's papa. Papa! Hiroshi! Sayuri! Mama, papa, mama, papa.
Now you know how it feels to chew 5 gum. This shit looks like a little Tool music video, kind of. It's very peculiar, but I wouldn't really consider it like an anime per se. It's just more of like a small shit post that for some reason has a My Anime listing. So when going through all of this to look for the worst anime ever made, things like this I probably won't even bother considering. I just wanted to put that out there right away since there's multiple entries like this on there. So let's go ahead and dive into the lowest ranked anime on the site. Tinku Danzai Skelter plus Heaven equals garbage, I suppose. Well, this was a lot worse than I expected it to be. I'm pretty sure this was made by someone who escaped a lobotomy mid-operation. So you start this piece of shit by slowly zooming in on this marble that's supposed to be the Earth while a heartbeat sound goes on for like a minute. It overstays its welcome almost immediately, and it's the longest shot in the entire movie. This is 20 minutes of pure agony. But it's not all bad though, at least they translated it to English using Babelfish. Skelter plus Heaven, her fate which does not get used to by nature, machines was left to your hand. The human body arms which had the program embedded so that a command may be obeyed from when born. That's Socrates level wisdom right there. This sounds like a poor translation from some random person in the YouTube comments, but it's actually what they used in the movie.
警戒態勢だぞ。聞いてないのか。
でかいな。300メートルくらいか。
Luckily the plot's super easy. There's a squid here. and we want to kill it. That's about it. Everything else that happens is pretty nonsensical, but that's the core idea. So the guy you just saw walking in is like a team leader who puts together a squad of waifus in order to fight this squid. And the squid's not really doing anything. It just kind of looks like a 3D asset for a tentacool. It's just like this weird, goofy, like vanilla ice cream cone squid thing that just floats around and doesn't actually participate or fight back at all, really. You get introduced to some of the other team members here as they're practicing their combat abilities, and keep in mind this is 2004, so the 3D, the CGI, it's a little rough here. It's looking straight out of Beast Wars, but it's doing its best, goddammit. There is a sin that is unforgivable no matter what year this came out in, and that's the way it's edited. I swear to God, no scene lasts longer than like 5 or 6 seconds maybe. Outside of that intro shot of the Earth that went on forever, everything else is as if the person who made it forgot to take their ADHD medication, and they're just constantly jumping from like a million things back and forth all the time. So nothing actually ever connects. That's not me editing this at all. That's just how it is in the movie. It's like an AMV where they try and capture the most boring moments imaginable. So I don't know what any of that was or how it connects even after finishing the movie. This whole movie is just like a series of random fever dream moments. It's like you're trying to remember a weird dream you had, but you only have those fragments. That's this movie. That's all it's composed of. Just random scenes that they animated for some reason, and then they just threw them all together. There's nothing that connects them, and there's nothing that makes sense. For example, them on like the hydraulic ass pounder machine, it doesn't really do anything. It's there for a split second. It's like this subliminal messaging, almost. Just like flashes of images that are hard to process because they don't last long enough to really grasp them. I'm cutting out a lot here, but eventually they get in their skelters and they start fighting the squid. Things aren't going amazing, and then it's revealed that the girl is actually an artificial life who's in love with that guy from earlier. And it all comes out of nowhere. It doesn't really make sense, and you don't really give a fuck. I mean, it's hard to make anyone care about these characters in 18 minutes, but they like tried to speedrun a nonsensical plot and then still tried to add so much to it and gave it so much fluff. Somehow it's 18 minutes, but it feels like it's 16 minutes too long. It's just crazy. Like, nothing they did worked here in the slightest. But let's go ahead and show you their triumphant victory over the squid.
これが制御コア。声が頭の中にべきただ一人の人のために私は戦っているのよ。
Yeah, cut out some things, but this is the gist of how it happens. It doesn't make sense in the anime either. So basically, they cut it with a sword and some like pillow stuffing falls out, and then all of a sudden she's somehow jacked into the core of the squid, who I guess is like beaming words into her head, saying something about human desire, and she's like, it's just a small group of humans that have desires like that and can't control them, and then fucking locks and loads, I guess. But it, again, like, it doesn't show any of that. That's my assumption, is that she starts just fucking blasting the core. But who knows, really? Maybe she beat it in a philosophical debate and it just blew up from the facts and knowledge that she dropped, all the logic. Anyway, catches smoke, falls, and dies. The end. Or is it?
これらの物体は1年前自衛隊によって壊滅させられました。
The squid had some friends, and they're equally as menacing. So yeah, I mean, that's where that movie ends. Definitely a bit of a super stinker. Worse than I expected, I'm not gonna lie. It was a big waste of time. So if you have 20 minutes that you just want to waste, I guess this is a good way of doing it. I would say that there definitely are moments where it is like fun bad, and it's not long, so it's not the worst use of your time if you just want to kick back and make fun of something with your friends. Definitely a good start though for locating the worst anime ever made. I do think this is probably going to be up there towards like the top 10, top 15 ever. This is really bad. That's about it. So yeah. I love you. You ever heard those words before? Well, you have now. You know what else I love? Solo Leveling. I think it is a must-watch show. It's a little something called anime. Might have heard of it before. Solo Leveling has really blown up with the success of Season 2. It has exploded in popularity. It's broken a bunch of records, and not to put the pinky out and the fedora on, but I liked it a lot during Season 1 too, and I was preaching the good word even back then. I know it's a little hipster thing to say, but yeah, I was sucking its dick before it was cool. Though I haven't read the manhwa that it's based on, so I'm not like a primordial meat swallower of Solo Leveling, but I was an early adopter. But now everyone's throwing it in a big way because the show is extraordinary. It is a really, really good show. It's a very straightforward show with a simple premise we've seen hundreds of times before. It's not trying to reinvent spaghetti and meatballs here. It's perfectly content doing it very well. So it's basically a world where humans have awakened magical power, and these gates are starting to appear which act like dungeons in video games, if any of you are gamers out there. And the humans that have these powers become hunters more often than not, and they are ranked from E to S. E being dog shit tier, absolutely useless, bottom of the barrel, to S being the creme de la creme, the best the society has to offer. So these hunters will take these missions from their guilds, or sometimes not even with guild work, and go to the gates, defeat the boss to close the gate. The hunters protect the rest of humanity by closing these gates, so that way the magic beasts don't come in and fuck us all in the face. And that's kind of the whole idea of the world in a nutshell, and we follow the weakest hunter of them all, Sung Jin-woo. Now, real quick before I dive into what makes the show super special and extremely good, I'd like to thank the sponsor for this video. Big thanks to DC Dark Legion for sponsoring this video. DC Dark Legion is a new official DC game. It's available through the iOS and Google Play Store, so available on mobile and PC. It's a pretty simple game, making it optimal for pickup and play, so you can enjoy it anytime, anywhere, with a beautiful UI and a really fun gameplay loop that's a strategy game and simulator, where you're going to be collecting and building out your DC champions, making them bigger and better, customizing your bat caves, saving civilians and building shelters, and you can fight alongside with and battle others in a PvP game mode as well. With a high-quality comic book art style and an authentic DC experience with a story that'll have you going through iconic locations in the DC universe, as well as having iconic beloved DC characters in it, it's a game that's filled to the brim with content. It's free to play, almost all champions released at launch can be unlocked for free within 1 month of play, and you can collect over 350 bleed draws to unlock almost all champions. You can use my gift code DCDL999 to get plenty of resources and 3 hero pulls called World Anvil Fragment. It's available now. Big thanks again to DC Dark Legion for sponsoring. So Sung Jin-woo is an E-ranked hunter who is absolute trash. He can't fight shit and he is useless to pretty much every party he's on. He is a knuckle sandwich magnet. The magic beasts treat him just like this fucking meat punching bag for them to dominate. And he is well known as the weakest hunter in this world. But even though he still gets walloped by anything with a pulse, he continues to go on these dangerous missions through these gates as an E-rank hunter, getting his clock clean time and time again for the singular purpose of trying to make money through being a hunter to hopefully at some point save his mother from an incurable disease. when one of his missions goes awry and everyone in his party starts to be slaughtered from a gate that turned into something a little bit more, Sung Jin-woo is facing death directly. And he is lamenting how all of it is playing out. He is sacrificing himself to save others, and it just feels so unfair. And right before he's about to perish, at the last second before his death, he was chosen by the system to be its player, which gives him an ability no other hunters that we know of have. The ability to level up. So he can level up his strength and everything like that, just like a video game. And now, Sung Jin-woo has unlimited potential through his ability to level up. And he also gets quests, he gets items, he gets summons. And we get to watch him go from the weakest hunter in the world to the strongest hunter the universe has to offer, at least that we've seen so far. As I said earlier, it's not a unique concept. This is a premise I've seen explored before in other shows as well. But Solo Leveling does it very well, and it's also beautifully animated. The big thing that has blown Solo Leveling up is its action. The animation for all of its action, and there is a lot of action, is just to a top-notch degree that people are loving it. And it helps that it is well written. Like, it is a good story, and it isn't, like, always just right in your face. Everything's just like, you know, put the square in the square hole. There are a lot of twists and moving parts to the narrative itself, but that's not, I would argue, that's not like the bread and butter of the show. The big thing that people love is Sung Jin-woo and his aura farming, as they call it, but just the way that he is able to fight and the way he's able to get stronger. And we get to watch him fight stronger and stronger enemies as he comes up with creative solutions to the combat. He gets so many items, so many abilities, and so many summons at his disposal that it makes every fight feel super fucking fresh and really cool. And the animation is breathtaking. This is, I would say, this is up there with like Jujutsu Kaisen level animation. Like, their fights, I think, are so good. It also has an absolute slapper of a soundtrack, so during some of the fights you'll hear the OST kick in, and it just elevates it to such a hype level. Now, while I think Solo Leveling is a must-watch, I don't think it's a perfect show. I think there's quite a few valid complaints, especially when it comes to Season 1. So Danny has been watching Solo Leveling since all of this hype around it. He wanted to get in and see if it's as good as it is, you know, as people lead him to believe it is. So he just started it recently, and he's really liking it, but he had some, like, really valid complaints that I also said about Season 1 in particular, where there's not really any characters outside of Sung Jin-woo. Like, yes, there's some other people that are introduced, but they're never really fleshed out. They're kind of just there in the background, just kind of idly doing shit, while Sung Jin-woo is going through all of these gates and his own quests by himself. I mean, as the name would imply, solo leveling. But that kind of makes it so you never really get to care about anyone besides Jinwoo, because you just don't really get to know anyone besides him. Which for some people, they're not going to give a fuck, but I do think it is a valid thing to say. You know, felt a little underwhelming that you only have one character that you ever really care about, and that also every fight Jinwoo gets in usually wraps up in like 1 or maybe 1.5 episodes. Throughout all of Solo Leveling, we're watching him become just fucking busted strong. Like, he is overpowering everyone pretty easily most of the time. There are a lot of times, mainly in Season 1, where it is like life and death. He gets very close and then squeaks it out. But for the most part, he is dog walking them. He is absolutely eating their lunch. He comes through... He's got, you know, hands by his side, cool, calm, collected, and he just fucks them. And it's very hype. It's very cool. But I do think it could be kind of lackluster for people where you build up to this really strong boss fight that ends in like 5 or 6 minutes because Jinwoo just slaps them around. It feels like, okay, he's like One Punch Man almost at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I could see why that could be not as satisfying to watch for some people, but for me, and I guess tons of other people, it is. Because the fights are still really beautiful. Jinwoo, I still think, is a really strong character, not just like in terms of his actual power, but like I actually think he is just a compelling character to watch and root for. But it is fair to say that if he's never challenged, it would get stale. Because you want to see him actually have to try and struggle against a really strong enemy where he finally overcomes it. You know, that's part of the hero's journey. And we do still get that. But I definitely recognize that in Season 2, we're mainly just watching him go ballistic and never really getting into a situation where I felt like, oh, he might lose, or he's going to have to really squeak some miracle out here to win this. It always felt like Jinwoo was firmly in control during all of it, even the strongest final fight. Now, in Season 2, we do get to learn about a few more characters to actually give a fuck about, which I think is very nice. So in Season 1, it's pretty much only Jinwoo that anyone is gonna care about, but Season 2, we get a lot more characters coming into the fold because now he is an S rank and everyone knows now. Everyone in the world knows he's an S rank, so now we get to meet the other S ranks, and some of them get a little bit of depth added to them, which I think is good because there should be more characters that you give a fuck about other than Jinwoo. Even though I think Jinwoo is always going to be the biggest draw in Solo Leveling because he's the most interesting and most hype character the show has so far. But it is nice that now there are some other characters that we get to learn about in Season 2 that I think people would like to see stick around and not get, eviscerated. Anyway, though, I'll stop yapping about it. I think Solo Leveling is a must-watch, especially for anyone that likes, over-the-top anime action. It's a beautifully animated show and just a great time. That's really about it. See ya. My quest continues to find the worst anime ever made. My adventure is a lot like looking for the lost city of gold, except instead of gold, I'm looking for shit stains on a public sidewalk. And today I'm actually watching the most famous piece of trash since Rebecca Black's Friday premiere. I'm watching Mars of Destruction. It's actually created by the same studio behind the last super stinker we watched, which was Skelter plus Heaven. Idea Factory, that's the name of their crew. So somehow they have 2 of the 3 lowest rated anime of all time on my anime list, and this one has a big cult following because of how bad it is. It's actually impressive that Idea Factory has popped out so many universally hated anime. They must just accidentally animate these things in between their employees eating sand and snorting glue. And then they're just pleasantly surprised when they end up with something that resembles a movie on their desk. But anyway, Mars of Destruction is what we're watching today, and luckily it comes in 2 video qualities, 240p and unwatchable eye strain. So instead of cursing you all with migraines by forcing you to look at the unbearable brain-rotted quality that this usually exists in, I'll display the high-definition, cinema-quality 240p, the way God intended it to be watched. What an intense introduction to capture your attention right away, some edge-of-your-seat type thrills. Humanity's Mars exploration team's on their way back to Earth, and mysteriously their ship blows up. And that's a bit of an exaggeration. It doesn't really blow up, it just kind of like peters out. It's like a sparkler getting extinguished. Now there's aliens on Earth and we're not happy about it, so the government has come up with the ultimate countermeasure, the P-90 Rush Waifu Defense Force.
3体目を確認。応援が行きます。持ちこたえて。
So these goofy Power Rangers villains can shoot piss missiles from their mouth and unfortunately blast the head off of one of the waifus. And it really rattled me to my core and got me thinking about how fragile and precious life is. One second you're with your friends confronting Dirty Bill and the boys at the park, and the next second your friend's head has been vaporized and they're squirting blood like it's slime time at Nickelodeon Studios. So So I'm pretty sure that their anti-alien team is just a rebranded neighborhood watch because they're clearly not very trained. This girl ran up and missed every single bullet from her clip at point blank range on a giant enemy, but I guess it wouldn't matter if she hit the shots anyway because her friend did and it did nothing but tickle the monster. So even if they are just like stormtroopers closing their eyes here with their aim, it seems useless. They're not equipped to handle the situation. I love the voice acting from the aliens here. It just sounds like someone plugging their nose and then doing Banjo-Kazooie sound effects. We've now been introduced to Takeru, humanity's last hope against the aliens, I guess, and he's not very reliable. Against two of these small little Kirby Digimon things, he nearly died. So he has this like lightsaber thing that I guess is made out of foam or plastic or something because it's not very strong. But he manages to stab one with it, and he's not, like, overly bothered by getting stabbed. But while he's, like, mounted on top of him, like, you know, shake weighting the sword in there, one of the other aliens comes up behind him and gives him a back scratch, and it's really painful for him, and then he shoots sunlight at his back or whatever, and then he manages to stab that guy slightly, and through remarkable struggle, was able to defeat some lowly grunts at a playground, and nearly died for it.
脳波弱ってきています。
心臓は
不正です。どんどん弱っています。心肺停止です。
心臓マッサージの準備だ。
Bro, humanity is better off putting their last hopes into the power of thoughts and prayers. This guy is not strong. They've done a terrible job of showcasing this guy being a badass. He just gets his ass beat by two tiny aliens. And now he's dying. And they're trying to use a heart massage to bring him back.
俺知ってるんだ。マルスを切られなかった人たちがどんな風になったか。父さんはマルスを世に知らしめたいだけなんだろう。やめろ。
よし、持ち直したぞ。強心剤を頼む。
Luckily, the deep tissue massage was enough to restart his heart. I'm no medical professional, I'm not a classically trained doctor, but I don't know how often a heart massage is performed, but my god, it seems effective. We also get to learn a little bit more about Takeru. His dad is the one who created the Mars suit and forced his son to wear it against his will, and now he's alive and back to this corporeal realm thanks to the power of the masseuse on staff. But I actually think this is a terrible thing for humanity because now they're going to be forced to rely on him again, and he's super weak. I feel like he would get manhandled by a group of elementary school bullies.
こっちは完全にダメだ。
But I do really like this scene here. The attention to detail in Mars of Destruction is unmatched. Remember the girl whose head got blown off? Well, luckily they got her to the hospital, so there was still a chance they could have brought her back, I guess. I love that idea, like, oh my god, our friend her whole head just got deatomized. Quick, get her to the emergency room. Maybe the doctors know some kind of head massage that can reassemble this at an atomic level. And then, like, they're disappointed when they're like, no, this one's gone. They're like, oh, no, I can't believe this. I thought there was still a chance. Great scene.
ファースト未確認遺跡人対策班。増加する謎の遺跡人と呼ばれる怪物から市民を守るために組織された特別チーム。チームメンバーは警察関係者の中から秀でた人物が選ば。
Now we learn a little bit about the ASS program, and I can assure you none of them are good at anything. Every time that any of these agents are on the screen, they're just getting beat the fuck up or having their head blown off. I'm cutting out a lot because I don't think any of you care about the plot, so I'm just gonna tell you what's happening. They're now transporting something in a van, something that they don't describe. They just say, like, do you think the aliens want this? And like, hey, maybe. And that's about it. That's all we really know about what's happening currently. And then they get ambushed by a giant group of aliens and a super alien. And, they came to party and they brought snacks. The snack they brought is lemonade that they keep fucking shooting at every goddamn person on screen. They decapitate 2 police officers and then mutilate some other guy. The music choice is inspiring here. In fact, Beethoven himself wrote this piece for Mars of Destruction. Everyone knows that Beethoven was a giant weeb, and it's great to see them proudly display his work here. I will say, while this is obviously not good, Mars of Destruction is at least animated, which is more than I could say for Skelter Heaven. This is a top 10 anime fight scene, I would argue. The way that they're really weaving in the classical music, oh my god. Chef's kisses, I swear. They've really outdone themselves here. So, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit here. So, the bullets aren't working. He's just absorbing them. They also can very rarely hit bullets in the first place because every single one of these assed soldiers is overdosing on Xanax or something, I guess. They just cannot actually aim anything, but god damn it, that won't stop them from trying. Also, Takaru has his arm broken, so he's not happy. From out of nowhere, they just happen to have the ultimate super weapon, which she pulls out of her asshole, I guess. And I will say, one thing I really appreciate is the attention to detail when it comes to even the voice acting. So you'll hear that Takaru's voice is muffled, and that's because he's wearing the Mars suit. Genius. So usually in anime or literally anything, when someone in a suit's talking, you can hear them. It still sounds like they're just talking normally. But here they're like, wait, he wouldn't be sounding normal because he's in a suit. So then they had the voice actor talk into his hands kind of like this, or like into a pillow or something. And it really drives home the idea that this man is suffocating in that suit, and you can barely fucking hear him. Takaru no-scopes the big bad supervillain, and then all of a sudden we're now listening to these two guys talk, who I assume is the president and Doc Brown, and they're going over, what they've recovered and the information they've learned, and they've confirmed that Homo sapiens used to live on Mars. Alright. Turns out humanity was influenced by the Martians, and the big bad guy rises like the Undertaker. Like fucking Dracula rising out of his coffin. He's back, and he's taken Takeru to tell him some evil shit. Yeah, so the firing squad finally starts landing bullets and hits him with the fatality. Roll credits. That's where it ends. All at once, they try and just elbow deep fist some fucking awful exposition in out of nowhere, and it doesn't really work. I feel like by the end of this movie, the end of the project, they knew they didn't really tell a story, but then decided they had to at least try to make it look like they did. So the director just came out of nowhere. They're like, watch this. In the last like hour worth of animating, give me one extra scene and I'm gonna make a masterpiece. So he's like, not real humans. These are real humans. These are invaders. Where's my Oscar? You know, like, it just doesn't work. Nothing in the movie worked, but at the very least, this time they animated something. This came out a year after Skelter Heaven, I believe, so they're only getting better. This came out in 2005. I think by 2060, they might be able to make an anime that's almost passable. Right now, they're on an upward trajectory, and they're hitting their stride. They're peaking, and I can't wait for their next one. That's about it. So yeah. Well, I finally found an anime that I'm comfortable calling the worst one I've seen so far, and I haven't even finished it yet. In fact, I've only watched one episode, and I immediately just need to talk about this and go over some of it with you all. And it's one I'm sure you've heard of. It's called X-Arm. It was a Crunchyroll original from last year, and it is, by no exaggeration, the worst animation I've ever seen in my life. I would have rather watched this story on a stack of note cards that someone was flipping through like a flip book. The animation would have been smoother there than in this show. It's like a stick figure pivot animation half the time, but not nearly as good. I swear to God, the General Auto Insurance animated commercials look better than this entire show. I don't know what went wrong. I don't know what team they hired to do this. The same visionaries behind Food Fight? It blows my mind how unpleasant this thing is to look at. I got so offended, I looked into the team a little bit because I couldn't imagine an actual team put together this disaster, this fucking catastrophe. And it turns out there was only one person on the entire staff that worked on the show that had ever had any history in anime. Everyone else, this was their first foray into the medium. The main guy behind X-Arm was a live-action director, who wasn't exactly a great live-action director to begin with, but they hired him because they thought it would be interesting to have someone with no animation background work on this for some reason. They thought that since the last movie he did was like a martial arts movie, they thought he'd be a good choice for like action in the animated medium, which he wasn't at all, clearly. But anyway, I'd like to go over the first episode here.
次の合コン誘ってやるからアドレス教えろよ。
俺スマホ持ってねえんだ。
はあ、マジかよ。もったいねえな。
An astute observer will notice that the main character's 3D, while the other characters are 2D, leading to this jarring disconnect immediately.
お前の機械嫌いにも困ったものだ。けど料理は上手だよな。
Our main character is Akira, and just like a 62-year-old woman on Facebook, he doesn't like technology. He says his head spins and he feels like he's being sucked into it, which of course is foreshadowing, but it also just sounds straight out of Better Call Saul with Chuck being worried about all the technology around him and shit. It's a really immediately goofy concept, made even sillier by the fact that, again, the main character is 3D interacting, I'm putting that word in quotes and using it real loosely, with a 2D world around him and 2D characters. So it just doesn't work, and it's already just yucky.
一度か送ってあげるよ。
どうしよう。助けてあげなくていいのか。やったぜに無勢。勝てるわけな。
They can't even accidentally get something right in this show. The majority of the 2D components are just still images. It's basically like watching a Dr. Seuss book in a PowerPoint presentation. It's trash, but the 2D stuff isn't even like well made. Like there's no effort there. Like they have no excuse because this isn't even animated and still looks like trash. Because that girl looks like she's sitting on an invisible bar stool, and the three dudes around her also look like the most low-effort thing imaginable. They could have taken at least a little bit more than 6 minutes to make this, because it stays on screen for long enough to realize how awful it looks. So after a conversation with his brother, it's mentioned that he works on androids, and then he goes out into public and immediately witnesses a crime. These hooligans over here are tugging on a girl's arm, and they're talking about walking her home, and Akira has an internal conflict wondering if he should try and help her. Even though the odds are stacked against him and he's not much of a fighter, he knows he won't win here, but he wants to try his best to save that girl.
出すことだ。変わりたいと思ったならな。そう。
アキラ行きまーす。これが俺の最後の記憶だ。
He gets hit by a truck. Yeah, he just gets absolutely fucking walloped there. That truck had it out for him. That was sent by God himself. He had just started crossing the street, and the second he turns around, there's all of a sudden a truck just barreling down the road at him. I'm not far enough into the show to know if this was like a time travel assassination plan or something. I really have no clue. But what a wacky intro. And that's a pretty cliche thing. I've seen that exact plot device used in many anime as well as many shows in general. Like about to do a good deed, but then you get hit by a truck. In Yu Yu Hakusho, it was he saved someone's life by pushing them out of the way of a bus and then getting hit. In this case, they do it the worst I've ever seen. Fast forward 16 years post-truck blast, and we are now looking at an android and a police officer who are going through hell right now. And this android needs a hardware update or something. Like, there needs to be a patch to her aiming, because she doesn't hit a single shot. So what the fuck is the point of an android officer if they have the same level of accuracy as me shooting a gun with my eyes closed? But luckily she has martial arts to rely on. The edgier seat action just doesn't stop, but I wish it would, because it's disorienting and bad. This plays out almost exactly like a puppeteer with puppets making an action scene. It's so stiff and it's so clunky. It's like somehow this show has glitches in it. It's a goddamn anime that somehow has glitches and bugs. You'll see like a bunch of clipping and a lot of like janky like spaghettification effects occasionally during the action because it feels like it was rendered using Unity version -0.1. Like I don't know how you can even make a show that has bugs in it. It's not a fucking video game. They managed to secure the trunk, mission accomplished, and then we finally get Akira back and we see what role he plays in this whole thing.
なんだこりゃ。
喋った。
喋りかけたのそっちだろ。てかあんた一体誰なんだ。
あなたこそ一体誰なの。
I need to give a special shout out to the lip syncing department here, or whoever worked on the faces in general. They are so unbelievably awful that I can't help but be impressed by the ineptitude. I have never seen faces this emotionless. And I'll show some other examples here. They only have 3 emotions. It's neutral, happy, and mad. And the way they express these is the positioning of the eyebrows, and that's it. There's 3 levels the eyebrows will end up at, and nothing else. And the lips only move up and down sometimes. It's so shockingly terrible. But anyway, Akira's back. He's now an X-Arm. He is what was in the trunk. He's an X-Arm unit now, which is a very sought-after piece of technology. I'll just fast forward through some of the filler here and fill you in that he can take control of Alma, the android, whenever he wants or whenever she invites him to, and it becomes a very useful tactic.
通常の武器では絶対に勝ち目はないからです。それが X アームです。
This is the main villain of episode 1, and he's out here looking like he just escaped a lobotomy. He's got his mouth wide open like he's gasping for air like SpongeBob when he entered Sandy Cheek's dome with no water. So he's an X-Arm user, and he's terrifying. He's able to, like, dematerialize his body, kind of like what Obito was able to do in Naruto, where he's able to have things like pass through him, but then he can make himself solid when he wants.
あだのって言うな。
南さん。
見つけた。だって臓器ってのはまだまだ人気商品なのよ。綺麗にバラしてやる。
This scene's a great example of what I mean when it comes to emotion. So if you look at her face right now, that's how they portray anger on every character. They make them look like a goddamn Voltorb from Pokemon. They just tilt the eyebrows down and it's like that's them being angry. Now the bad guy's defeated our heroes temporarily and he's got his little wiggle finger going into her abdomen talking about cutting out organs to sell. But luckily the heroes are coming back and about to save the day.
逃げろって言ったのに。
God, the fights feel so empty. It's like they're fighting in a sensory deprivation tank. There's no sound effects other than and that's it. Nothing else. Sometimes they have like impact sound effects, but there's no like backing track. There's no ambient noise or anything. It's just this uncomfortable series of groans and clunky moves.
あの子たちはどこだ早く探さないといた
あなたですか？
昔から機械が苦手なんだ中に吸い込まれそうな感じで
やめろ早く私の中に入って。
Pretty fucking epic scene here. So, Akira exists in this cyber dimension, the cyberspace, and he's able to control technology, so he like takes control of the ship and like moves it around ever so slightly, he jostles it. And then Alma gets defeated by the bad guy, and then she visits him in the cyber heaven and says that he needs to get inside of her, take control of her body to fight the bad guy, which he does, and then he beats the bad guy, and that's the end of the episode. Like, it's just not, it's not even worth showing you. It's just really fucking boring and bad. It's much worse than I expected. And what's the most insulting thing about it is there's 10 or 12 episodes. I think it's 12 actually. And that's a lot. Each one of them's 20 minutes. It's like shit. That's a lot of dog shit to watch. But I'll do it because I'm still on the quest to find the worst anime ever made, and right now this is looking like it could be a front runner. I still think Skelter Heaven is worse, like objectively, but at least Skelter Heaven is only a single movie that's like 17 minutes long. Each of these episodes is longer than that whole movie, and they're really fucking trash. So, yeah, anyway, that's episode 1 of X-Arm. That's about it. So, yeah. For a couple months now, so many of you have been asking me if I'm going to be making a moist meter on Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, and I've always proudly proclaimed, yes, of course I'll be making a moist meter for it. You bet your sweet bippy. But, unfortunately, just like Fire Festival, I lied. I'm a big fat liar, and Frankie Muniz ain't the one exposing me, I'm doing it myself. I pulled your leg, I yanked your chain, and I'm not sorry. I'm not making a moist meter, I'm making this video. I'm just gonna sit here and gushing grannies over Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 because I, no exaggeration, believe it is a masterpiece of action shonen. I know the word masterpiece gets tossed around willy-nilly. It's used very loosey-goosey. It's pretty much lost most of its meaning. It's like the word prank to a YouTuber. Masterpiece doesn't hold the same weight that it used to, but I'm using it in the truest sense of the word. I 100% with my whole heart believe that Season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen is legitimately a masterpiece in animation, and action for that matter. Now, before really getting into this, I want to make it clear that I'm not ignorant to the problems at MAPPA. MAPPA is the studio that produces Jujutsu Kaisen anime, and they have been overworking their staff, and it is a tragic situation at the actual MAPPA headquarters, because the work they have produced here is spectacular, but it came at the cost of the health of its employees, and I think that is completely unacceptable. All I can do is hope that MAPPA improves its infrastructure so that way it actually takes care of the talent that makes this possible. It is clear that so much passion went into this season, it oozes out of every frame of this show. It is unbelievable what they were able to do with Season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen. I didn't think they'd even come close to matching the beauty of Season 1 of Jujutsu Kaisen, and somehow they came in here and fucking spanked its cheeks red. This is so much better somehow. It is mind-boggling just how good Season 2 is when it comes to its action. So, let me dive into this. I think, and I said this for Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1, that this is the best pure action that anime has to offer, period. This is about the best it can get in that genre. I don't think there's anything else that really competes with it in terms of what they're able to capture in the anime. Now, that being said, I do understand that a lot of people have complaints about its story and its power scaling, as well as some of its characters not ever really being developed and sometimes just used to, like, shock death and, like, startle viewers. And I do get those complaints. Like, I definitely do feel that in Season 2 here. They introduce some really cool characters, only, like, quickly just kill them off, or even kill off a character that never really had a chance to really be fully explored and be fully fleshed out, even though there were all signs pointing to that being the case. So it feels like at points, the narrative was there just to subvert your expectations for the sake of it, which felt a little unsatisfying to see a character's story come to a close the way that it did a couple times. Though other times, it really felt like, damn, this is a big important moment, and it does feel like they were sent out in a really fitting way. So it was a couple hits and a couple misses when it came to that, but overall it didn't detract from my enjoyment of the story or the show as a whole. I actually love the universe of Jujutsu Kaisen, and I love the characters. Todo is still my favorite character, and even though he's not as prominent in this season as he was in Season 1, when he's here, he fucking shines. He shines bright like a diamond. I love Todo. And even characters that I didn't really care for in Season 1 have really great moments and even like small arcs in Season 2, like Mechamaru. And it even explores the villain side of things and makes you somewhat sympathetic to a couple of them, like Jogo, for example, who is kind of a joke. But Jogo is really interesting because he only squares off against the strongest possible fucking opponents, so we never really get to see him display his power against people less than godlike and nearly unbeatable. In Season 2, we do get to see him, like, flex. Like, we get to see him go crazy on some sorcerers that aren't necessarily unbeatable fucking deities. And damn, he is strong. He is spitting and shitting on people. Season 2 is really like this avalanche of hype. It starts with just this absolute fucking snowball rolling down the hill of hype, adrenaline, incredible action, and it's all beautiful to watch, and it never stops. It just keeps gaining speed, gaining girth, gaining mass. It's just this fucking non-stop runaway train of beauty, and I loved every second of the ride. I don't want to get into anything spoilery here. I really do just want to sing its praises because I think what's been produced is something extremely special. Now, there are plenty of valid complaints like about what not to like about Jujutsu Kaisen when it comes to story and characters and whatever, but there is no real complaint that can be made that its action or its animation is anything less than top tier and some of the best the industry has ever seen. Full stop. If there's anyone saying otherwise, they're being contrarian for the sake of it, or trying to get like engagement bait, because it is objectively, legitimately, objectively speaking, some of the most beautiful, most dynamic action that anime has right now. And it's kept up through the entire season. It's not just a couple tiddlywinks sprinkled throughout major episodes and major narrative moments. It's every episode, every fight has so much tender loving care put into every goddamn frame that it creates this beautiful piece. Every fight, every moment of a fight is amazing. And it's not just like a couple of big moves that are animated really well. They have so much hand-to-hand combat with like a dynamic moving camera that follows the action around, and it never really gets disorienting, except for a couple of moments during fights where things just go absolutely chaotic, like legitimately fucking bonkers. But other than that, it's all extremely easy to understand what's happening and so fun to watch. I really think Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 is perhaps the best action shonen that can be made. Like, I don't know how you can do action in anime better than this season just did. Like, I feel like we've just now been spoiled for the rest of the humanity's existence on this fucking space rock with the best possible action anime we will ever see. Which is cool, you know, what a time to be alive, but damn, like, where do you go from here? I don't think it can be topped. I really don't. I can't recommend this show enough. I think even if you hate anime, if you hate animation, you will still probably find a lot of enjoyment watching the action here. Because Jesus Christ, it is a spectacle. So yeah, I just wanted to make this. I know I didn't really get into the nitty gritty on any of it because I just don't even need to. This season is very simple. Bad thing happens. Very creative plan from the bad guys goes exactly how they want it to mainly, and now it's a series of fights to try and overpower them, and you're just getting fight after fight after fight after fight after fight. I think every single episode in this season had a big fight in it, or was a continuation of a big fight that had happened in the episode before. And how can you not love that? How can you not love that? Yes, you can want more narratively, I get it, but Jesus Christ, this is still such a beautiful meal to be consumed here. I loved it. I think it is a must-watch. I'm a huge fan. Clearly, I'm sitting here, going wild over it, like a kid on Christmas that just got that bike they've been wanting for so long. But, this is an anime wet dream of a production, and it is just still such a shame that MAPPA overworks and mistreats its employees. I need to mention that again because the talent behind this deserves to have their flowers here. What they have done is unbelievable and they should be rewarded for that. Not with pain and misery while working at MAPPA and dreading every single day. I remember I read something on Twitter how during one of the major fights in the episode, they'd actually slid in the MAPPA headquarters building and it gets blown to pieces or something. I don't know if that was just a meme or if that's true, but I do believe it because a lot of animators came forward to talk about their awful experience while working on this because of the way MAPPA oversees the project. And that fucking sucks because what they've made is incredible and this talent deserves to be rewarded. So, amazing season, amazing show, amazing series. I'm trying so hard not to read the manga because I want to just experience it in its animated format. But man, it is tough to fight that urge. Anyway, highly recommend. That's about it. See ya. It's no secret I like anime. What are you going to do about it, pussy? Huh? You want to fight about it? What are you going to do? Give me a wedgie in the locker room or some shit? A little wet willy? You can't. I'm a goddamn adult. I can like anime without your permission. There's only two types of people in this world. People that watch anime and liars. And I've seen a lot of goddamn anime in my life, but I tell you, the SpongeBob anime that just came out is probably one of the best I've ever seen. Easily the best of the season. So I just wanted to dive in here and just digest some of this with you.
A Narmak animation.
So the first arc here, the Bubble Bass arc, one of the favorites from the cartoon, has been adapted into anime thanks to Narmak Animation, and right away you know you're getting quality. Narmak is like the Studio Ghibli of SpongeBob anime adaptations. He only knows how to make bangers.
店長、大丈夫ですか？来たか、スポンジボブ。カーニバーガーがやばいと聞いて急いで来ました。何があったんですか？
Now, I find it highly unlikely there's anyone watching right now that hasn't seen the SpongeBob cartoon, though I do imagine a lot of you haven't read the manga. There's massive differences between the cartoon and the anime. It follows more closely in line with the manga, which is a sacred text up there with the Bible. So you're going to notice a couple of differences in terms of how the characters act in this anime compared to the cartoon. So just prepare yourself.
奴は5つのピクルスのことすら知っていた。闇のバーガーに潜む秘密を封じるためにわしが作ったレシピ。その存在を知る者ですらもうこの世。
As you would expect from the Bubble Bass arc, we will be focusing on the Forbidden 5 Pickled Patty. And to the readers of the SpongeBob manga, I'm just going to go ahead and hit you with the cold water right now and force feed you your vegetables, give you the bad news. This is unfortunately not going to have the copious amounts of nudity and full penetrative sex that the SpongeBob manga is known for. This is a YouTube anime adaptation, so Narmak had to unfortunately cut out some beloved arcs from the manga, such as the Sandy spread cheeks and just beautiful content like that. But even though that's not going to be making an appearance in the SpongeBob anime, it's still extremely good.
すでにイカルドを向かわせている。何としても奴がクラゲ草原を出る前に取り戻さねば。
向かわせた。一人で行かせたんですか？そんなの死にに行くようなものじゃないですか。
それでも、あれはあのレシピだけは奪われてはならないのだ。
Mr. Krabs was faced with an impossible decision. After giving his all to stop Bubble Bass's rampage at the Krusty Krab, he had to make the painful choice to send Mr. Squidward after Bubble Bass to try and stop and retrieve what was lost. Mr. Squidward's no fucking idiot, alright? Mr. Squidward knew that this was likely a suicide mission, but still, he accepted it because he knew he was fighting for something bigger than himself. I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Squidward was the one who volunteered to go after Bubble Bass and Mr. Krabs tried to stop him.
この職場がどういうところか知ってて今までやってきた。スポンジボブよ。いつかお前も真実を知る日が来る。 あの闇のパティの秘密とお前自身の真実を、そしてわしが全てをかけてでもお前を守ってきた理由を。
Unfortunately, SpongeBob doesn't quite grasp what he means to Mr. Krabs. Mr. Krabs has always put SpongeBob's life ahead of his, ahead of even money in certain scenarios. And SpongeBob going on this reckless mission to try and save Mr. Squidward has really put Mr. Krabs in between a rock and a hard cock here. He knows he can't go and stop SpongeBob, and he knows he can't just let Mr. Squidward die. His soul is tearing in half, and you can really feel it thanks to the incredible voice work here. The SpongeBob anime has always had amazing intros with high quality boner jams and a lot going on. Like even just this opening right here tells an incredibly compelling story about friendship and what happens when a friend goes down a different path than you. It's just extremely powerful with an incredible intro, and I just wanted to make note of that.
スポンジボブ、
サンディ、イカルド。
最後に見かけたのはあの岩のあたりだと思うけど。
戦っているのか。じゃあなんであなたたちはここで見ているだけなんですか。
それはイカルドが来るなって言って。
あやつは自分の名誉のために戦っている。
Unsurprisingly, Squidward asked both Patrick and Sandy not to interfere in his fight. Squidward's always been a character with a very strong sense of morals and his own personal code, which he always abides by. And he's always put the safety of others first in fighting for the greater good. He's not afraid to put a clarinet up his asshole if that's what the situation calls for. He is just a completely selfless character from the manga, which very much differs from his portrayal in the cartoon, unfortunately. Now, I was a little bit surprised that Sandy didn't interfere, because Sandy's always said, you know what, fuck pride, fuck honor, it does no good, it just gets you hurt. Patrick, I'm not shocked. You know, Patrick has always been a character that's been very much ingrained in this belief that one has to abide by their code in order to be a man. So Patrick not going down there to help makes sense. I just feel it might be a little out of line for Sandy's character, but for Patrick I totally get it. And for a lot of fans of the cartoon, this may be very jarring to see Patrick this serious, but he's always been this serious. In fact, it's almost an injustice what they did to Patrick in the cartoon. But I understand why they dumbed him down for the cartoon, because he was just a bit overpowered in the manga. So I absolutely get it, but it's lovely to see him in a return to form here. Fills me with jubilation to see the noble Patrick Star Samurai in full glory here in the anime again.
大切なものを守れる強さ、絶望に立ち向かう勇気、イカルドは確かめようとしているのだ。自分にもその強さ。
そんなくだらないことを本気で信じてるんですか。あなたたち二人が強いことは僕が誰よりも知っています。そんな強いお二人がイカルドの勇気やらプライドやらって言葉を鵜呑みにして見殺しにしたと言うんですか。フレンドの F はどこ行ったんですか。
スポンジボブ。
Oh, that line, what happened to F is for friends. That is the powerful kind of writing you can come to expect from the SpongeBob anime. So fucking good, so profound. SpongeBob was able to just throw this whole idea of honor and pride right on its head and say, you know what? What good is it when, as friends, we just let a friend die? What happened to F is for friends? One of the most powerful quotes I've heard in anime. This is up there with the bone of my sword. You know, people die when they're killed. It's one of the best.
スポンジボブとイカルドはいわば同じコインの表と裏。二人とも拙者を震わせるほどの何かを秘めている。そしてあの何とも言えぬ顔がまたかっこいい。予言では醜い怪人が全てに死をもたらすと言っていただろう。大丈夫、奴らは違う。二人とも
The wise sea star sage speaks. He's of course talking about the ugly barnacle prophecy, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. Even if you've only seen the cartoon, I'm sure you've at least heard of the ugly barnacle prophecy. It's a very popular one up there with the Mayan calendar 2012 shit. And Patrick Star is reassuring both Sandy and the viewer that both Squidward and SpongeBob are just far too attractive to be subject to that omen. Sandy was on the breaking point. She had just watched Squidward march to his inevitable demise at the hands of the malicious Bubble Bass, and now she just watched her best friend SpongeBob fucking cliff dive here, doing the exact same thing, potentially facing the same fate. But the calming words from Patrick were enough to bring her back and help center her again.
岩じゃない。これはただの石だ。初代の武器がこんなところにあったなんて。よし、これならいける。あとは。
I absolutely love the foreshadowing. After stumbling upon an ancient weapon of the pioneers, SpongeBob makes a quick little mention of perhaps this weapon will come in handy at some point in the future, hinting at perhaps Season 2 following the Mrs. Puff arc, or maybe even unleashing the goofy goober within. There's really no telling yet. Maybe even in this episode he uses his ripped pants special move. The possibilities are limitless. All we know now is maybe The Rock will play a role in that at some point.
なんでここにイカルドミカエクラリネットもマジクラリネットだったら怪我が治ったらすぐにでも。
After retrieving the syringe from Bubble Bass, Squidward takes a devastating blow and unfortunately meets his end right in front of SpongeBob. You can feel the heartbreak. You can actually tangibly taste it, even smell it, roaming from jellyfish fields right to your fucking nostrils through the computer. This is the powerful kind of animation and voice acting you would expect from something like the SpongeBob anime, and it really sells it. I gotta be honest, when I first saw it, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't tearing up. It really is a powerful scene, and, well, it just causes SpongeBob to snap.
どんなに頑張ってもお前はあの時ピクルスを忘れて客に品を出しちまった救いようのないコックなんだよ。仲間一人救えないお前は名前をサクセスのやつからフェールドの F に変えた方がいいんじゃないかなあスポンジボブ。
黙れつってんだよクソが。
God, it just gets you hype as fuck, makes me want to fucking toss over my own desk and take a piss or something. It's just so extreme. Seeing SpongeBob finally have enough of Bubble Bass's ridicule about how he couldn't make him a Krabby Patty with pickles on it, and how Squidward died because he was too weak. SpongeBob injects himself with the formula that Squidward gave his life to get back, and then he fucking dials in. The formula combining with the curse of the hash-slinging slasher has SpongeBob finally awaken and finally activate his Sharingan, allowing him to achieve a mastery of karate that he never thought possible. If that's not one of the best fight scenes of the 2020 anime season, then I just don't know what the fuck is. Absolutely stellar. I love the crescendo of music. I love the shredding on the guitar from fucking Buckethead or whoever's shredding on that bad boy for the SpongeBob anime. It's just incredible. Everything works together so beautifully. It's lovely to look at. I do, however, wish there was a little bit more. I would have liked to see a bit more of Bubble Bass's power since we didn't get to see a whole lot of it. He did, however, just fucking blast Squidward and kill him in one shot. So it does give you a bit of a gauge, but I would have liked to see a bit more from Bubble Bass. I'm sure he had a ton of other moves, but I imagine just given this being the first arc, they didn't want to dedicate too much to showing off Bubble Bass, and just wanted to show off more how extreme SpongeBob can be. And SpongeBob popped the fuck off, as you would expect. SpongeBob's always been one of the most powerful characters in anime. Typically the debate goes, who's stronger, God, One Punch Man, or SpongeBob? And SpongeBob is always very close to taking that one. So I love seeing him just unleash it all right here, put it all on the line, after seeing his best friend just get destroyed right in front of him, using the secret formula. It's just everything worked together so beautifully here for this fight.
イカルド、
俺がなんだって、この不実頭。たく、少し気絶してたからって勝手に殺すんじゃねえよ。
こんな無茶するなよ。ずっと一緒だからな。もう絶対どこにも行くなよ。
And that's where the Bubble Bass arc comes to its satisfying conclusion. Narmak absolutely fucking crushed it here with this, and it makes me extremely happy to see all of that hard work being rewarded. He said it took him around 6 months to make this. He has actual professional voice actors here doing it. It's just an incredible job all around. And to see his channel really start to blow up from it, and seeing the incredible support on this video in particular, is extremely nice to see, because hard work like this I absolutely think deserves to be rewarded, and it is fantastic. So really hats off to Narmak and everyone that worked on the project. It's really fucking good, and I loved watching it. And yeah, just keep up the good work. That's about it. So yeah. Yeah, I definitely think it's anime of the year. Dan Da Dan is a show that really came out of nowhere for me. Never even heard a whisper about this manga before, but then once episode 1 of the anime hit, everyone's screaming its name from the rooftops. I also thought it was Dan Da Dan until 3 minutes ago when I decided to look it up, because last time I mispronounced something, that's the entire comment section, is just how much of a fucking Neanderthal I was for getting the pronunciation of something wrong, so I wasn't making this mistake again, especially not when it came to something as sacred as anime. I probably would have been thrown to the guillotine and had my soul exterminated like the Emperor did to Horus at the end of the heresy. And I wasn't going to take that chance. So, I have confirmed that it is Dan Da Dan, and I am also confirming that it is anime of the year. When this show dropped, my whole chat was telling me about it, saying I need to watch it, and then every single week from that point forward, they'd always ask me if I'd watched the new episode, and if I had, what did I think of it? I haven't seen this level of hype around a new anime since Chainsaw Man. And I think the show lives up to the hype. I wasn't disappointed or let down. Not that I really could have been, I had no expectations, because just like the top shelf in my kitchen, I had no fucking idea this existed. So, I was just pleasantly surprised at how good it is. And on paper, it's not the kind of show I like, because I have been a very outspoken Scrooge when it comes to slice of life. Really bored by it. I don't like slice of life. I can count on one hand the amount of slice of life anime I've ever even moderately enjoyed. And now, I'm going to have to add a new finger to that hand, because I do like this one, and it does have slice of life elements, but it's not putting all of its eggs into that basket. It has a lot of action, which is animated beautifully. The animation in this show is spectacular. Also has by far the best opening in recent memory since probably Vinland Saga Season 1. So yeah, the action is really good. It's beautiful, it's fluid, it's fast, it's chaotic. I was really surprised with how high quality the animation was for this show. Basic concept of this show is that it revolves around aliens and ghosts. Two things I fucking love. I'm obsessed with aliens, and every new alien update that hits the planet, me and my dad talk about it and argue about it daily, and I fucking love ghosts. I hunt those bitches. I've gone on 4 different ghost missions to try and prove their existence, even though I myself don't believe in them even a little bit, just for the sake of seeing if maybe I'm wrong and ghosts are real. So I love aliens and ghosts, and they combine both of these into a really beautiful stew. And our main characters are discovering they have powers. One gets psychic powers. The other gets a spirit possession power, where Okarun, that's his name, gets possessed by a spirit called Turbo Granny, who bites his wiener, steals his cock, and then it ends up, through a large series of events, granting him the ability to call upon her really impressive power. So the action's really cool. Like, these elements themselves aren't anything super new, except for, of course, the possession via cock. I haven't seen that before, but maybe I just haven't watched enough anime. But everything that it has, aliens, ghosts, psychic powers, that's nothing new. But what the show does is it combines all of these elements so well. Like, it is wacky, it's self-aware, and it is first and foremost just fun. It's also really good at delivering emotional beats when appropriate. There's an episode in here that I don't want to spoil that is probably one of the more emotional episodes of anime I've seen all year. And it's just one episode, and it was able to convey so much. They do such a great job of balancing the comedy, which there's a lot of comedy in it, the action, there's a lot of action in it, as well as these few emotional moments, as well as making you, the viewer, probably relate to some of the situations when it comes to the romance and like the awkwardness of romance and shit. So I just think they just nail all of it, to be honest. I don't have a single complaint about the show. And like I said, a lot of what this show offers are things that I really just don't even like in most anime in general, like the comedy bits. I don't really like a lot of anime comedies. They don't really make me, giggle. I'm not grabbing at my belly like Santa Claus, breaking out into fits of laughter watching the anime character shoot blood out of his nose for the millionth time. Like, I'm usually not laughing at the comedy gags in most anime. But in here, I actually did have a couple of moments where I was giggling. And it's just well done. Like, it does things different while still exploring similar concepts to other anime. I really am surprised at just how well the show is written. And it's so refreshing just how unserious it is sometimes, where you have things like Turbo Granny possessing Okarun, and now all of a sudden he has to go on this noble quest to find his missing testicles, which have turned into golden balls and flew across the world like fucking Dragon Balls. Like, that's so silly. And it's really self-aware in the silliness, but they play it straight. So it, feels really good. Like, it's just entertaining. And it's not afraid to be serious. Like I mentioned, they have some really emotional moments that are done very well. And they also do the romance really well. They don't tackle romance in this show the same way a lot of other anime do. So it feels like a show that they just knew what the fuck they were doing. The action is great. The writing is great. The aliens in particular, when they fight the aliens, are really cool. And they're also super silly. Like, the aliens are doing crazy dances and shit, and they look super silly. And they keep talking about trying to harvest the humans' banana organs. Once again, talking about penis. The show is also first and foremost making dick jokes out the wazoo. Hey, they've been studying some of my old transcripts, I'll tell you that much. Anyway, though, I think I've glazed it enough. Point is, I do think Dan Da Dan is the best anime of the year, hands down. So, yeah, that's really about it. So, yeah. I'm just going to preemptively ask for forgiveness from the Lord here, because I'm coming in raw and no rubber. I just need to vent. Go ahead and get your Bible out and get ready for some amens, because I'm ready to fucking preach. I just finished watching episode 6 of Promised Neverland Season 2, and it is, without exaggeration, the most abominable, putrid pile of dog shit I've ever seen in an anime. Fair warning, there will be spoilers for this show, though I wouldn't recommend it to even my worst enemy, unless of course you only watch Season 1 and pretend Season 2 never happened. Season 1 of Promised Neverland is a damn near masterpiece. Season 2 is like it's been written by Tommy Wiseau overdosing on ketamine. It is bafflingly bad in every possible department. So as I mentioned in my Moist Meter, Season 2 doesn't follow the manga. And in my eyes, that's not an unforgivable sin. I haven't read the manga, I don't really read manga, I'm too fucking cool for that. I'm an alpha chad that only likes the moving pictures and the shooty bangs and titties all over the place in my anime, so I don't really know anything in the manga. But from what I've read, Season 2 has skipped everything in the manga, and I can absolutely feel that, because the show is now devolved into like a story time for 4th graders. Spoilers, again, I'm just going to give you another fair warning. Norman comes back in episode 5. And in episode 6, it is spent in a circle where Norman just explains what happened in the manga, but never happened in the anime. So you never get to see any of this shit, and also, some things that happen in the manga just don't even exist in the anime. But anyway, Norman spends the entire time telling you about things that you never saw and never will see in the show. And it's like 10 minutes of just exposition diarrhea. This man is just vomiting facts all over the place, and it sounds like something a child would write. Oh, I was shipped off to this other facility, and I was experimented on, and then I met a guy named Shmi, and then Shmi died, and then I got some superpowers that make me like a super badass galactic emperor. Oh, and I created the ultimate weapon which can kill every demon in the world. Oh, and I'm gonna do this plan tomorrow. All of that happens in a single episode across like 10 straight minutes of exposition in a circle while everyone just looks on and cheers. You go, Norman. Yeehaw. It's so bad. It's so fucking bad. It breaks like the pivotal rule of storytelling when it comes to like movies and shows, where it's, hey, show, don't just tell. This is nothing but telling. This reads like some kind of fucking fan fiction being read out loud in front of a creative writing class. It's unbelievable that this is the direction this show has taken. And also, like I mentioned in my moist meter, the jump from episode 4 to 5 is so fucking incredible. Episode 4 has them running away from somewhere, and episode 5 has it pick up a year later, without telling you anything that's happened in between. It's just, oh, now it's a year later. Oh, and now they're scavenging for food over here. Oh, and now they meet Norman again, who now just spends 10 minutes letting them know that he's created the fucking nuclear demon device to fuck them all in the asshole. It's so fucking unreal. The show, in season 1, I thought was going to be one of the all-time greats. I thought Promised Neverland was on the right path to be like a staple in anime. A show that anyone could pick up and love because there was so much to like about it. Season 2, I don't know how anyone could possibly like it under any circumstances. Even if you were losing your virginity during an episode of season 2 of this show, you would probably still feel gross and disgusted. You'd probably just tell them to just stop, get away. I need to turn the TV off first so I can get this garbage out of here. It is so unbelievably bad. It's insulting. It insults the viewer's intelligence by just breaking everything down for you in like this step-by-step wiki how of what happened that they never showed you and you couldn't possibly know because it didn't bother even going there. It's so bad. And what's even more insulting is the fact that before episode 6 they did a special episode, which is a fucking recap of the show. 5 episodes in, they recap it. They recap season 1, which is okay, fine, but no one's watching season 2 without having watched season 1 in the first place, so I don't know who that's for. It's not like someone's grandfather's just all of a sudden going to sit down and watch season 2 of this show and need to be caught up to speed. It was unnecessary. But then they still recap season 2. You're 5 episodes in and you're recapping it. How unbelievably lazy and out of touch do you need to be to think that anyone wants to fucking see that? It's like if Mass Effect's 3 ending got butt-fucked by Neil Breen's visions. Like his writing infiltrated it. It's already fucking terrible, and yet it somehow gets worse. Episode 6 is shockingly bad. It's unbelievable that they could actually put this out there and think anyone would enjoy it. Norman shows up out of nowhere with a miracle drug that he pulled out of his fucking dick hole, with no explanation on what it is, how he got it, where he learned how to make it, why he has a fucking briefcase full of it out of nowhere, who these people are that he's traveling with in their relationship. There's no flashback, there's no explanation other than a single sentence to explain away all of these things, despite them being by far the most important things we've ever heard in the show. I swear, if you thought Game of Thrones Season 8 was horrible, which it absolutely was, you haven't experienced shit until you watch this season of Promised Neverland. Now, again, this is only episode 6, it's not over, so maybe in episode 7 they go through and explain everything thoroughly, though I highly doubt it. But even still, the fact that they dedicated a whole episode to nothing but an exposition fucking clusterfuck, where all they do is tell you things that happened without showing you anything or really connecting anything, there's nothing you can do as a writer to fix that. There's really nothing they can do from this point forward to justify where this show is right now. They already skipped an entire year without showing you a goddamn thing. They've skipped crucial plot elements from the manga, which I decided to read about just to get caught up to speed on what should be happening or what should have been explained or what should be going on. And the fact that it's all skipped, I have no fucking clue how they can even salvage the narrative here. I wouldn't be surprised if episode 7, it turns out Norman also created some kind of geostorm device where he just sends the demon killer drug up through like a fucking laser tunnel teleportation device and just blasts it across the entire Earth like some kind of apocalyptic meteor storm that kills all of the demons or something outlandish. Like at this point, it's like they're not even trying. They're just throwing darts at a board and just putting in whatever the fuck it lands on with dialogue instead of anything else. It's like there's nothing even animated in this show. Across all of season 2, I can't even think of like many times the characters are even like moving or doing anything. There's like 4 scenes across all 6 episodes that come to mind where they move a little bit, and it all happens in the first episode. Like it's bad. It's really bad. It's not even watching an anime. It's watching someone's PowerPoint where they're trying to pitch you on a show idea that they had, but they're not good at getting it across. It's bad. And I just wanted to vent about it because I'm really, really disappointed. Like, extremely fucking disappointed. I haven't done this since Game of Thrones Season 8, but man, this is horrible. I hate to see what they did with such a promising show. It's really awful. Yeah, that's about it. So yeah. It's 4 a.m., I couldn't sleep, so I thought, why not watch the next episode of X-Arm? Maybe it'll be so boring and bad that it puts me right to sleep with some beautiful dreams. It certainly wasn't the case. It really was boring and shitty, but it just made me mad, not tired. So I got out of bed, and I just want to rant about it. X-Arm is a Crunchyroll original anime, and it is absolutely abominable. And I think it serves as definitive proof that the Lord doesn't care about humans, because if he did, he wouldn't have allowed us to create this absolute disaster of a show. After watching just one episode, the series premiere, I called it the worst show I've ever seen, and that statement couldn't be more true. After finishing the second episode now, I can confirm that it's even worse. It somehow continues to find ways to surprise me with how dog shitty it is. Let's go ahead and look at some highlights from episode 2 here.
オーパーツという言葉を知ってるか？この時代にあるはずのない技術による加工、貴様を含めてな。
嘘だろ。俺殺されるのか。
So they're hunting down and destroying Oop Arts, which is a really cool name. Sounds like noises a baby makes. Oop Arts are items from a different technological age that threaten the current age, could lead them to ruin. And that includes our main character, so he's a little concerned that they're going to kill him, and he oops his pants a bit, but he's reassured that they're not going to kill him if he helps them.
課長、先ほど東京湾メガフロートにおいて
大をかけ鉄槌を下します
A suicide bomber blows up a car. I bet you didn't see that coming. Probably about the last thing you expected to happen here. But that's the beauty of X-Arm. It keeps you on your toes. It keeps you guessing. It's full of surprises. You never know what's going to happen next. The only guarantee with X-Arm is that whatever happens, it's gonna be fucking terrible.
政府に次ぐ我々の要求はただ一つ。東京湾メガフロートの建設を今すぐ中止せよ。
Here's the bad guys, the bedsheet bandits. I don't know if their look was modeled after a child's ghost costume for Halloween, or if it was inspired by, like, KKK hoods. Either way, it's super fucking stupid. This group of villains is mad because the government's making a mega float, and they were told that the mega float construction would stimulate the economy and lead to new jobs, but it hasn't. So they want them to stop the mega float being built, and if they don't, there's going to be one suicide bombing every 5 minutes.
俺ならできるかも。自爆テロなんて間違ってる。
Suicide bombings can go to hell. If that's not one of the most powerful lines in anime history, I don't know what is. That's got to be up there with classics such as people die when they're killed. This is one of those lines that you will always remember now that you've heard it. This is a protagonist you can really root for.
はい、南さんの遺伝子コードを採取する必要があります。採取？何それ痛いの？いえ、痛みはありません。やってもいいですか？うん。じゃあ、アルマンお願い。では。遺伝子コード確認。
Woo-wee! Now it's getting real fucking hot. It's getting steamy. My god. That was... woof. That was a lot. That's gonna have me dumping some of my own genetic code here in a minute. And like I said, I told you, they only have like 3 facial expressions, so when they went in for the kiss, they just made like a giant lens flare in order to obstruct it, so that way you couldn't see that it's just 2 faces like colliding without any emotion or animation at all. Like, just look at this shit. They couldn't be bothered to do the bare minimum for a kissing scene, so they just censor it. It just looks like when you squish 2 Barbie dolls together and then say they're kissing and make smooching sound effects.
リンク完了。
Somehow that kiss establishes a link between Alma's body and the briefcase boy, so then she enters into the cyber realm where he's experiencing some kind of binary post-nut clarity and is able to take over her body. I'm not a scientist, but I would say that this makes a lot of sense. It sounds pretty grounded in reality. I imagine when AI does eventually take over the world, it'll be very similar to this, where they have to like start making out with us and then stealing our genetic information.
なんだ二人目を確保。
ねえ、天国ってあると思う？はあ？捕まえた子が変なこと言ってたんだ。天国へ行ける神様はいるって。
The squad rolls out and starts executing people in the streets. And by that I mean they like tranquilize them in broad daylight and bring them in, and then start talking about heaven being real. So the thing that looks like the Xbox Kinect here is the main character Akira. As you remember from episode 1, he died, but then like his consciousness was implanted into this X-arm machine, which is confined to a briefcase, and this little robotic eyeball thing.
そっか、木まで盾にするとは。なんかあの町で見たこと。
神父様が私にこれをつけてくれたの。新しい世界を作るのよ。邪魔はさせない。
The conversations in the show are so fucking silly. One minute they're tranquilizing people in the street and locking them in cryo chambers, and the next second they're talking about the existence of heaven and God. From this though, they track it down to a church where they find the main big bad guy, and he's got a massive army here that's ready to go fucking hog wild. Finally, it's about time we get into what X-Arm is really known for, its high-quality action sequences. This is up there with choreography on the level of John Wick, I would argue. It's just extremely smooth. It just feels good for the soul, honestly. It's like a soul massage watching X-Arm at its best, when it's delivering these grand action moments that will probably stand the test of time and make it into some of those top 10 anime fight compilations that always float around on YouTube. This might even be better than the iconic Kingsman church massacre scene. Like, if you put this X-Arm church fight right next to the Kingsman one, I would honestly have a hard time distinguishing which is which, because the 3D in X-Arm is scarily realistic. You know, this feels like it's technology that we weren't supposed to have yet. This feels like it's animation from the year 2040. It's really impressive work, and I love that all of the 9-year-olds that worked on it were able to really commit the time and effort to make something this special. Yeah, that was fucking incredible. She busted in there, super cinematic, and delivered a dropping crane kick onto a bad guy in slow motion. But I don't think the slow motion was on purpose. That shit came in there at like 4 frames per second. I feel like that may have just been a rendering glitch. All the characters in X-Arm move around as if they're just helium balloons being carried by a strong breeze. There's no weight to anything. Everything is just constantly empty and hollow and lifeless. It's such a weird show. Like, I can't even put my finger on exactly what makes it so unnerving to watch for me, but when I watch this show, I just get filled with a sense of dread and sorrow.
あるじゃないか。空に。
時間だ。愚かな連中め。さあ、これよりだ。
Just when you thought it couldn't get any more epic, we're about to engage in a high-speed helicopter pursuit. The priest has taken to the skies, and he's about to detonate all the suicide bombers remotely, so the stakes couldn't be higher. I want to briefly just talk about the helicopter design here, because whoever came up with this idea needs to be thrown in jail immediately. This isn't high tech, and it's not cool. It doesn't make any sense. This looks like some shit you'd find at Universal on one of those rides, like the Avatar ride or something. Like, why in the world would you pilot a helicopter from the outside of it? That doesn't give you any advantages at all, unless you're trying to, like, kill yourself quicker and just jump out, but you don't want to take the trouble of opening the door. You know, it makes no sense. This isn't even, like, futuristic looking. It just looks like someone thought motorcycles were cool, so they took that concept of riding a motorcycle and strapped it onto a helicopter here. Honestly, the coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. Negative blade pitch, and then they just kick like a pop shove it with the helicopter and start flying it upside down, belly up, at the other helicopter. Then Alma jumps from that helicopter to the other straight up. But clearly, we're dealing with YouTube level first time animators, so they didn't actually animate anything. Instead, they just put the camera behind Alma's head and then made her move closer to it with the camera in order to simulate her jumping towards it. But I don't even care, because that negative blade pitch helicopter maneuver was legendary. That's where episode 2 ends. What an amazing conclusion, honestly. There's a lot to love about that, and almost nothing to hate. Let's be honest, is X-Arm the worst show ever made? Probably not. But it very well could be one of the best shows ever made. And I could find no better example of that than that scene right there. Absolute beauty. So she comes in, drops a cool one-liner, check and mate. Get scholars mated, nerd, you blundered, and I'm here to capitalize. And then he decides he's gonna blow himself up, and he calls it like a flawless victory for him, even though I disagree, considering he's dying, like he's suicide bombing. It's like, you know, maybe you could argue that he still wins kind of, but it certainly wouldn't be like a flawless win because he died for it. But he didn't win at all, because out of nowhere, a sniper headshots him and he falls out of the helicopter. Amazing. That's X-Arm for you. You gotta expect the unexpected, and you're gonna love it every step of the way. If you're a fucking clinical psychopath. This show is remarkably silly in all of the most not entertaining ways. Occasionally there's silly moments like this ending here I actually like a lot, with the helicopter going upside down and then the guy just getting sniped, a really anticlimactic ending. I think that's great and like bad, good, like fun bad. But the majority of the show is just terrible exposition, the worst animation you'll ever look at, and it's just insulting to a certain level. But anyway, that's episode 2. Can't wait for episode 3. That's about it. See ya. I can't watch the show anymore. I'm throwing in the towel. The Rick and Morty anime is nearly unwatchable. And I know me giving up goes against one of like the core themes of anime itself, but I just cannot push through and finish this show. There's 5 episodes out right now, and there's no shot that I watch episode 6. It's horrible. I made a video talking about it when it first came out, and it was a confusing, ugly abomination. But I said I would see it through to see if it improves and connects all of these seemingly unrelated pieces of dog shit. 5 episodes in, and I think the answer to that question is a resounding no. There's only a couple episodes left, I believe, and there is no reality that even Rick could enter where this show ends up saving itself and having it be satisfying or even coherent. I don't even know how you make a show this disjointed. It feels like the script was written by the creator while he was under anesthesia and just not lucid. It doesn't work. It tries so hard to be deep and profound. It completely abandons any semblance of comedy. It doesn't even try. I can count on one hand how many times they've even tried to make you smile or laugh in this show. It would rather try and LARP as some kind of pseudo-intellectual drivel, but it's not saying anything. So all of its attempts to be deep fall flat. It's flatter than its art style. I still absolutely hate the way the show looks. It is revolting. Fucking Chalk Zone had better drawings on the chalkboard than this show does for its finished animation. It looks just like doodles half the time. But there are a couple of moments where there was a glimmer of hope that something interesting was starting to happen. Like it was building to something, that something it was building to starts to happen, and then it abruptly cuts to something else. This show has more cuts than that scene from Taken 3 where he jumps over the fence. This show is constantly cutting around to 1,000 different things. I said in the first video I made on this that the show feels like trying to remember a dream, where all you get is like bits and pieces of scenes. That is still this entire show's DNA. And I've seen people try and say like, oh, it's actually supposed to be challenging you to piece it together. It's openly ambiguous, so you can start to piece the plot together yourself. Kind of similar to a Dark Souls experience, where you have to find the plot through looking through all the world items. What a bunch of hoopla! That is a load of dirty barnacles. That is not what the show is doing. It is just a disjointed mess. I'm sure you can start putting together some semblance of a plot if you really reach deep into your colon for it, but without ass pulls, there is nothing that makes sense with what this show shows or tells you. For example, there's like a fight scene going on. There's a couple fight scenes in here. All of them are pretty bad, but there's a couple times where it was actually somewhat cool, and the animation started to get elevated a little bit during those scenes, and then the show cuts to something else, where it's Rick and Morty walking down the road, and they have the worst dialogue ever in this show. So what they'll be saying is like, Rick is going into, "She can see the future, Morty." Well, maybe we just can't see the future. Or maybe it's because the future's not visible to us. And it's like, what the fuck, man? That's not like a thought-provoking statement. You're just filling time. Like, half of the dialogue in this show feels like the writing was just there because there was a word limit they had to reach. They never actually say anything. So when you do have a fight scene that comes up, you have no reason why it's happening. Like, there's no real, like, meaning you can even derive from this show. It's just a bunch of messy shit haphazardly thrown together in this cauldron. And what's crazy, and what really, to me, highlights just how all over the place the production of this must have been, is that for the first 4 episodes, it is entirely focused on just cutting between a bunch of different realities at random. So you'll have, like, Rick in a spaceship where he's drifting off in space and he's going, "Oh man, not good." Or you'll have, like, Beth in a spaceship talking to Summer, and Summer's like, "This could be bad," and Beth goes, "You're right, this could be bad." So this lame-ass dialogue, and it's building up because it keeps cutting around, like, all of these realities, like, this, they're, like, converging to a certain degree, though you never really see them converge. The closest you get to knowing that is Rick keeps having all of these scenes cut where he's at a bar in one of them, and then he's in the spaceship in another one. He's like, "Oh man, I'm not this reality's Rick. This can't be right. Now it's annoying." And it spends a lot of time trying to make you care about their new character, Elle, who is very important to Morty, the new love interest. And she can see the future the same way that we see the past. And they say that like a million fucking times, by the way. Rick is always like, "She perceives the future the way we perceive the past, but she can't change it the same way we can't change the past. Morty, did you know she can see the future?" "Excuse me, Morty, did you know she can see the future?" "That. Morty, she can see the future." Like, it's crazy how many times that fucking plot element is driven home and shoved down your throat, while it not actually meaning anything, because nothing in this show is, like, there's nothing happening. Like, they're just saying shit that has no actual effect on what you're watching. Nothing is happening. So they do this for 4 episodes, and they keep building this up. I was expecting episode 5, the newest one, to drop, and have something that brings it all together. Because at the end of episode 4, Rick's in his spaceship, and he's like, "So you're the one that's kind of behind all this wackiness," and it's Elle. And I was like, okay, now they might do something with that. Episode 5 turns out to be a complete standalone that doesn't even tie in to the rest of the fucking world that they've built here. It doesn't have anything to do with the first 4 episodes. This one is the most Rick and Morty episode where it's just purely self-contained. So it's like Jerry and shit, like doing silly stuff. It's the only one that even tries to inject humor into some scenes, though I think it miserably fails at it. But it is now just a complete standalone episode in the middle of 4 episodes of building. So it brings all of that to a screeching halt again, and episode 5 is still a ton of fucking random cuts, but at least it tries to make jokes occasionally. But now it just feels really out of place because you spent 4 episodes doing the exact opposite. What the fuck is going on? I can only imagine what episode 6 will be. It might just be the creator goatseeing himself and it's animated as like a claymation. Who knows? It is a mess. It is a fucking mess that I cannot watch anymore. It is miserable to sit through. I truly do not know who this is for. I feel like I've said that for 1,000 things over the last year or so. Like the Borderlands movie. Who the fuck was that for? It's not for fans of Borderlands and it's not for fans of good movies. It just falls into the void of being worthless. I feel the same way about the Rick and Morty anime. Like, it can't be for Rick and Morty fans because most fans would come into this expecting at least some humor, like some comedy to it. Rick and Morty has always had a lot more depth than just comedy, I recognize that, but this has no depth. It tries to emulate the idea that there might be depth there, but there's not. It's just randomly cut together scenes spliced together roughly. It's bad. It's not making you laugh. It's not making you think. There's also no action, so if you're going into this expecting like one of the old Rick and Morty anime shorts where there was like action in it, you're not getting it. It usually cuts away in the middle of the action or before the action happens, so it all happens off screen. Even the very few times that there is some action shown, it's really lackluster because they've already killed that momentum and didn't let anything flow. And also, the show looks like it's in slow motion most of the time. I felt like watching this show, I had set the browser to fucking 0.5 speed. It is weird. Like, it is an off-putting style that I don't think works at all. So it's not for Rick and Morty fans. It can't be for anime fans because this offers nothing good as an anime. Who is this for? I don't get it. What is the fucking point? Now, I do know there are people that like this, and all power to you if you're someone who enjoys the show. I'm not here to bah humbug, shit on your fun, and flip over your cereal bowl or whatever while you're enjoying the anime. I just truly don't understand what there is to like about it. I think on every level, it fails to do anything it sets out to do. And I honestly don't even know what it set out to do. Collect a paycheck, maybe? I don't know. It's a random series of thoughts that aren't even connected to one another, even loosely. It sucks. I think this is some turbo ass. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a little update on the Rick and Morty anime. I don't think I'm going to be finishing the season. It's just fucking awful, and I don't think there's any way that the next episode or 2 can fix it at all. So yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. When I review a movie, the typical process is this. I'll go see it. Immediately after finishing it, I come home all giddy, full cocked, ready to just spit out all of my thoughts, and like Rene Descartes said, I think, therefore I am going to review this movie. I do it immediately, so everything is all fresh in there, everything that I cook up in this wrinkly sack between my ears, and I post it pretty much immediately, all within like 30 to 45 minutes of seeing a film. And yesterday I saw the Chainsaw Man movie, and I really liked it. But I didn't post a review, and Stream picked up on this and started asking why, because it's pretty uncharacteristic. And the reason is because we actually have an official collaboration between our soap company Cheeky and Chainsaw Man. So this is available now. We have a Chainsaw Man movie-inspired line of new Cheeky scents. I was a big fan of Chainsaw Man, so this collaboration has been super hype, and like I said, I really, really liked the movie, so all of these scents are inspired by that and the characters. And with this partnership in mind, I was worried people would think by me reviewing this film that it would be biased or unreliable, and I'm only glazing it because we're working together with the property. But the more that I squatted and stewed on this, and from Stream Chat last night, I really just want to yap about the film. And I feel like over the course of the, 8-ish years that I've been reviewing movies and games, I think it should be pretty clear by this point that it doesn't really matter anything outside of like the actual product itself. Like, I try not to take anything else into account when just, spitting up my thoughts on something. So even though we are officially partnered with Chainsaw Man, I'm still going to give you my very honest review of the movie. And I do that for everything. So, like, even if my dad made, like, a passion project film, if it's a pile of dog shit, I'm gonna let him know that is some stinky trash, Like, it's just gonna be how it is. Now, in the case of the Chainsaw Man movie, there is nothing stinky about it. This film was fucking extraordinary. And I said this last night, it has been an incredible year for 2D animated feature films. Pretty much back to back, we got Demon Slayer Infinity Castle and now the Chainsaw Man movie, which I think is right up there with it. I think this movie was so good. So let's go ahead and dive into the spaghetti and the meatballs here. So this is a whole arc condensed into a single movie. And I was a bit skeptical at first because I always thought when it came to something like this, you'd need multiple episodes to build up and care about a character that gets introduced. So that way it actually matters and feels meaningful when big things happen. But I have really come around on this arcs as movies direction that the industry seems to be going. I think Demon Slayer's done it really well, and now Chainsaw Man has proven they can do it really well. Reize is a character who gets introduced in this film and develops throughout this film, and by the end, you do care about the character. I think they do a really good job at setting that up. I think they hit the emotional beats very well. I also think this is a film you can see even without watching season 1 of Chainsaw Man and still understand what's going on. I wouldn't really recommend doing that because you miss out on so fucking much, but if you have a friend or a significant other or something that maybe wants to go see it with you, I think they can without being lost and they can still really enjoy it. And this film comes in two very different halves. The first half of this film is setting up Reize in this emotional arc as well as Denji and his conflicting feelings where he's in love with Makima. Makima has his heart, but Reize is someone that's showing like genuine romantic interest in him, which is something he's never experienced before. So now he's also falling for Reize. So it's this back and forth of like these feelings he shares for two different women, and it's, really weighing heavy on him. It's stressing him out. And he's going on dates with Reize, but thinking of Makima, but really liking the time he spends with Reize. So the first half is really building that up and getting you to care about Reize. And I think they do a good job. The first half is very much like a slow burn where it is a lot of slice of life going on, and it's really well done, like it's detailed. Slice of life is my least favorite genre in anime, but in here, and maybe it's because of the time constraints of a movie, they're able to do slice of life without having it feel like it drags on or overstays its welcome. It feels like every single slice of life moment is there to build up this relationship and get you sold on this character, Reize, and I do think there are some people that will find that boring. In the same way where Demon Slayer had a lot of flashbacks to tell a story that people apparently didn't like that much and kind of tuned out, I didn't have an issue with it, but a lot of people didn't like all the flashbacks. This movie doesn't have any of that. There's no flashbacks, but instead they do all of that, fleshing out of these characters in real time across the movie. So actually maybe people will find that more appealing. But I just do think that there's a chance in the first half of this film where it is very, mundane tasks that Denji goes on, like little dates with Makima and Reize, where people might find it to be uninteresting. But I think it's important to understand that without all of this character building and giving all of that time and attention to actually making people invested in the story and characters, all of the action and all of the beautiful mayhem in the second half would have felt a lot less meaningful. Action without a good story and good reason for it feels flat. And in this film, that is not the case at all, because they spent a lot of time and a lot of care building everything in the first half, so then the second half, it feels like an even bigger payoff watching it all unfold. Something else I feel people might bump on is if you're not super familiar with Denji as a character, maybe you would be put off by how, like, highly sexual he views things. So, like, when he's, conflicted on his feelings with Reize and Makima, he pictures them in, like, lingerie type thing, and he sees two sets of boobs, that kind of thing. Though I would say in the context of the story, there's a real reason for that. Denji is a guy who has experienced nothing but misery and agony his entire life, and now all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's turned around for him where he is like having friendly interactions with people, which has never happened, and now women are actually showing interest in him, which he never even thought was possible in the first place. But it turns out that these women are actually just using him. He is very easily manipulated because of how little experience he's ever had in his life, so they use, like, sexual shit as a way of controlling Denji and grooming him. So it does, like, make sense in the context of the story, but I do think that some people might be put off by that. Anyway, though, let's talk about the second half, because I think this is where everyone is going to be losing their fucking minds, throwing popcorn and how hype it was, because the entire second half of the film, the fights with Bomb Girl, are just incredible. Once Bomb Girl is introduced, once she comes into the fold, it is from that moment till the credits roll, fighting. She fights Aki, she fights fucking everybody. Fucking civilians she starts throwing hands with. And Denji is teaming up with a shark fiend named Beam, and he rides the shark into battle with his chainsaw, like, wrapped around him, like the chainsaw blade that is, like, wrapped around him. It's so fucking cool. And not only is Bomb Girl fighting everybody, but she actually has a tag team partner named Typhoon, who, from the name you can probably guess, has the ability to basically controlling like the weather and like a typhoon, and it's just so chaotic and so fun. It's super, super hype. Also, big shout outs to the music choice here. I heard Maximum the Hormone come on during one of the fight sequences, and that was a joy. I have not heard Maximum the Hormone in, good lord, who knows how long. But when Maximum the Hormone track started playing, my god, it was time to lock in. That's what Dankin said as well on stream. It really is super hype. The entire second half action is breathtaking. It is so, so good. I will say though, when Chainsaw Man is like directly fighting Typhoon, like actually in the mega mix deep in it, since Typhoon is just, you know, flinging so much shit around, there's a lot happening visually. You know, Chainsaw Man's riding Beam, this fucking giant shark in there, there's a lot happening. It can be a bit visually cluttered at times, but I don't think it ever reaches a point where you don't know what's happening and you can't see the action. I think it does a really good job of keeping everything like digestible where you can easily tell what is going on. I just think when it gets to the Typhoon, like towards the end of Typhoon fight there is so much that happens that it does get a little muddy, but never to a point where it was like, you know, what the fuck is happening? I just wanted to mention that there is a bit of clutter there with Typhoon in particular towards like the final section there of him fighting Typhoon. But overall, I think this movie was great. I really, really liked it. And hopefully you don't think that this is just a biased perspective on it because of our partnership. I am very excited by the Cheeky Chainsaw Man collaboration. Like I mentioned, it's out now. All of the soap smells amazing, and I'm very excited, very happy to be working with them. But that plays no role in my thoughts on this movie. If this partnership didn't exist with Cheeky and Chainsaw Man, I would still have the exact same feelings on this film. So, yeah. Anyway, that's really about it. So, yeah. I was going to turn on the desk light here to illuminate it a bit better so it doesn't look like I'm telling scary ghost stories, but I decided I kind of like this vibe for the topic. Because this is a scary topic. Too many people are sleeping on an incredible show. I'm not seeing enough glaze. I'm not seeing enough movement. I'm going to be honest. There is a show that I just finally finished, that only just recently ended, that I am just not seeing get proper nut care. Like, I'm not seeing enough people fondling those balls. It's To Be Hero X. So far, it is my favorite anime of 2025. I do still have a couple others to catch up on, but I can't really imagine any of them somehow surpassing this in my eyes. I think the show is extraordinary. The first, 3 or 4 episodes had me under a very different impression for what kind of show this was going to be. Immediately, it's pretty clear that the animation is beautiful, and it's a show that uses multiple styles. So, it'll flip-flop between, an arcane vibe and then a traditional 2D anime style. And it does it with the snap of a finger. The best hero, the strongest character, X, you will sometimes hear snap his finger, and that's when it flips from arcane to some of the most breathtaking 2D animation you'll find in a show. It's not to, Demon Slayer Infinity Castle level, but it's really not far behind either. It excels in its visuals. So, it is majority 2D, but for the first arc, the first character you follow, Nice, it's mainly arcane-ish. And I think it is so cool when it flips back and forth. It is so creative. It doesn't feel like a gimmick or anything, because it doesn't need to rely on it. Like I said, it's mostly 2D, but it does go between them occasionally. And it is so unbelievably pretty. Now, don't worry, Puppet Pals, I am going to gush and grannies further on its visuals, but before that, I want to tell you what the show's about. So, this is a world where there are heroes and powers, and those powers are directly tied to how much others believe in them. It's trust value. So if people have faith in somebody, that trust value goes up and it makes them stronger, or if they don't have any powers, gives them some based on people's perception of that person. For example, there is a character, a hero named Firm Man, whom always stands tall, standing up straight, firm, and basically nothing can like crush him or like move him or anything, because when he was a firefighter, he caught some debris that was about to fall and kill a child, saving her life. So when that story broke, people started to believe in him with that perception of being like immovable, firm. So it gave him those powers. It's a creative spin in the genre. I actually really appreciated it. But there's also another force out there that's starting to take hold, and it's fear. Fear also grants people some extraordinary abilities, and of course these two forces clash. That's kind of the big point of To Be Hero X. But it also has a really interesting format where instead of like following one character in a story across a season, it follows multiple heroes. And when I say multiple, I'm not talking one or two, I'm talking like 6 or 7. So they'll dedicate like 2 or 3 episodes to a hero giving you their backstory, as well as setting them up as a domino in an event that has happened. And now these dominoes are falling over, so everything starts to collide and everything plays together. And what sounds like it could be really messy and convoluted or even like annoying, jumping from so many characters in so many different positions, it's not. It flows so well. In the last like 5 episodes of this season, I could not turn it off. Like I literally like could not pull myself away from watching it. It was so gripping. I think it is just a really, really well done story. And the first handful of episodes had me believe this show was going to be something that it's not, because it felt very like slice of lifey, and it felt like it didn't take itself super seriously, and it was more like about, maybe comedic aspects or something like that. It's not. Like there's nothing like childish about it or like slice of lifey or anything. It's a really like well done deep story that gives a lot of emotional depth to its characters, and it's not afraid to kill people off as well. It was very refreshing. It does feel very different from pretty much all other superhero anime. Now, in this world, there's also a like ranking tournament that goes on where the strongest heroes will fight each other in order to establish their trust values, because everyone's going to watch and they'll see like who's the strongest, what's going on, and the strongest character gets crowned X. And typically when someone gets crowned X, the strongest, they only hold that title for like a very brief period of time because everyone else is able to catch up and surpass them in the next tournament. But the new X is someone we don't know a whole lot about, but he defeats people in an instant with a snap of his fingers. He's just victorious at all times. And this guy aura farms like a motherfucker. He is super cool. Like, he is such a cool character. He has very, very, very little screen time, but every time he is in an episode, he's like the highlight of it, and it just gets you glued to it. I really, like, I cannot praise this show enough. Like, it's not just carried by outstanding visuals. It is the complete package. But anyway, since I did mention the visuals again, I can't stress enough just how good looking this show is. I think this has the best fights of the year as well. Pretty much every single episode has a huge battle, like a big fight between characters. And they do not cut any corners. Holy shit. It is so well animated and well choreographed. They are like drawn out long fight sequences, just full throttle. And they are outstanding. Especially like Queen vs. Boa, I think is the best example. That whole episode is basically that fight. And it is so fucking great looking. Like, I highly encourage you to just like watch that clip of Queen vs. Boa. We are talking like Ufotable level animation to its action. It's so fucking good. Like, I really think that what they've done here is something special. And I am shocked more people aren't talking about it. Another thing about this show, it has really good music. It has boner jams. Like, I'm telling you, they use the music in some very hype moments, and it elevates it to a new level. There is one thing, though, about this show that I really wish they didn't do as much of. Since they are telling so many different character stories, it's more of like an anthology than anything. Which, again, I actually really like the way they do it here. But there is one thing they do a lot that kind of got annoying towards the end of the show, where they will reuse the exact same scene that you've seen before and then sprinkle in like the new spin on it from the character's perspective. So for example, when they're about to go investigate an alien ship, this is a pivotal moment, and you'll see it from one character's perspective, like when he was recruited to it, and then another. But instead of just showing you that character's perspective when they get introduced to it, they will reintroduce the entire scene to you. So they will repeat literally whole scenes sometimes because, again, they revisit it but from a different angle. But instead of just showing you that new angle, they show you the whole scene again and then add the new angle. So there was a lot of times where I was like, oh fuck, I've already seen this before, and I contemplated just like fast forwarding through it because, again, it's the exact same scene with no alterations until the character comes into the fold there for it. So I think they did that a little too much. Maybe that was for budget reasons. I would think that's probably why, because obviously they've already animated that, it's already finished, so if they reuse it, well, they save some money there having to do something a little different. I think that might be the reason, but it did get kind of annoying. Overall, I highly recommend the show, obviously. I do think it is underrated right now. I think this is flying way too under the radar. This is a show that I really would expect more people to be hyping up because there are so many, like, notable fight sequences. At the very least, I thought this would be something that people would be sharing, like, a lot of clips of from some of the bigger fights. So I'm really surprised to see that's not the case. So I really think this one, like, for me personally, is my anime of the year, and I really think a lot of people would really enjoy it. They maybe just haven't heard of it. So I'd say check it out. To Be Hero X slaps. That's really about it. See ya. I'm making this video with the hope that I am extremely wrong here, and in a few weeks we can all look back and point and laugh at how off I was. Like, I want this video to age horribly. But with my hand on a stack of Bibles, I don't think it will. One Punch Man Season 3 has started, 2 episodes are out, the second one just aired, and you can probably still see my eyes are a bit red from the tears that I shed watching it and rubbing them away. Not because I witnessed peak, but because I witnessed pee. Actual waste. One Punch Man is one of my favorite property. I've watched it weekly since season 1, and it's one of the very few anime that actually got me interested in reading the manga. I've talked about this before, but I typically don't read manga of property that already has an anime adaptation because I'd rather not know what's coming. I'd rather it be a surprise. Even though I typically don't mind if I get spoilers or whatever, because for me it's more about the journey than the destination. But still, I prefer to be surprised when it happens, oohing and awing and kicking my little legs in my chair when there's a big plot twist or something that unfolds. But One Punch Man is just so juicy to me. I love the world. I love its whimsical, wacky characters, and it is so full of spectacle. The fights are extraordinary in a beautiful manga. And I even really like in One's webcomic the way that he portrays things in there. I love everything about One Punch Man. It is a beautiful manga that I can't help but sink my teeth into, even knowing full well it will spoil what comes up in the anime. I can't resist. And like I said, it's very uncharacteristic of me to do that. Typically the manga I read is on things that don't have real anime adaptations, like Berserk. Lord help us, it is so sad. Bit of a tangent. Berserk is an actual masterpiece of a series, which I'm sure all of you have heard before. People gushing grannies over Berserk for a good reason. It is a sin that it doesn't get a true, real anime adaptation past what they already did in the 90s. What happened in 2016, which we don't need to reopen old wounds there, but I don't want to get too lost in the sauce. Point is, I don't typically read manga for things that have an anime. One Punch Man is the exception because I absolutely love the characters and the world there. Anyway though, One Punch Man Season 1 I think is one of the best seasons of anime ever produced. And throughout streams, people will often ask, I've never checked out anime, what should I start with? And like clockwork, I will always recommend One Punch Man Season 1 as an entry point to the medium. I think it is just so well done. From its pacing to its beautiful, breathtaking animation, unbelievable animation, the fights are incredible, but also just the character work is executed so well in Season 1. It is extremely good. It is extraordinary. And Season 2 rolled around, and it was a bit of a wet fart. That one was very disappointing to me, and I know a lot of people don't like my take on it, but I mean, it's how I feel about it. I think it is just such a huge step down, not only in the obvious decline in animation quality, it's a different studio, it's JC staff that took it over, which doesn't typically do something like One Punch Man, and they did not a great job. Season 2 did not have the greatest animation. It was no longer fluid, it had some really wonky CG in there, and it just wasn't as great as Season 1. It still had its moments because the characters are just so well done, like from the source material, it's hard to fuck that up, but man did they try. It was still a fine season, but just such a huge step back. So when it was announced that Season 3 of One Punch Man was once again going to be that same studio, I was immediately sad, but I tried to remain optimistic that maybe this time, given more time to cook, they could deliver something better. And now that we're 2 episodes in, they're delivering something even worse. It is actually even worse. Season 2 got dubbed by the fans One Frame Man because there's so little animation. A lot of the times you're watching still images, basically just manga panels and a PowerPoint. Season 3 is even worse so far. I shit you not, in the latest episode, episode 2, there is 2 separate scenes where it is a still image with the slowest panning camera imaginable. I actually thought my TV froze. And it goes on for like 20 seconds. Like it lingers for 20 seconds on just a still frame and some like narrator dialogue. And it's just inexcusable. How can something as good as the One Punch Man property get this treatment? It's incomprehensible to me. It's just insulting, especially considering some of like the most slop trash manga is getting beautiful anime adaptations. Like these actual nothing burger properties you've never heard of that are just actual garbage, bottom of the barrel slop. Like last winter, the Wizard Lord transmogrified me into a paperclip and whisked me away to Vampireville, where all of these vampire babes shoved me up their ass and tasked me with defeating the Demon Lord. And it's like, who even knows what that is? And then the anime rolls out and it's breathtaking. Like, why does that kind of garbage get that kind of passionate studio treatment, but something like One Punch Man, beloved, gets JC staff spitting in our face? I don't understand it. Now, I want to mention, I don't think they're doing it on purpose. I just don't think this is the kind of studio that can do One Punch Man justice. They already proved they couldn't with Season 2, yet they're hopping back on the saddle again with Season 3 just to prove people even more right that they just can't do it. So why did they even get this work again? It doesn't make sense. These 2 episodes have been abominable. Like, they are not good. Even outside of the obvious lack of animation, if you watch Season 3 of One Punch Man, you've probably noticed that there's pretty much no movement happening in this show. To call it an animation is being really loosey-goosey with the term. You're looking at pictures mainly, with dialogue. You're not really seeing anything move. Now, in the last episode here, at the very end, it's gearing up for a fight, and there is a little bit of movement at the very end there. Which is why I'm making this video now, because I believe that in the next episode it's going to follow the Season 2 formula where that fight is mainly going to be impact frames and camera pan, but not actual action or animation. But I'm really, really praying, fingers crossed, I am wrong with that. In this episode, I shit you not, there is even a scene where Garo, when he's going down a hill to break up these bullies from picking on this kid, they didn't bother to animate anything there. So to have him go down the hill, they took Garo, that still image of Garo, and just moved it down. Literally panned him down with no animation at all. It is so janky. It is so gross looking. Now, I've read a lot of conflicting things about why this is in the state that it is. Apparently, like, there was a bunch of back and forth on who was going to get Season 3, and it ultimately ended up in the hands of JC staff, but it took like a prolonged period of time, so they didn't have a lot of time to get in the laboratory and work on something of high quality here, so this is what they shat out. I don't really think that's an excuse, to be honest. Like, something needs to change in that case where scheduling is better, or like extend the deadline instead of just like pump out whatever just to, you know, slap it on screen and ship it when it's clearly not in a state for that. This looks so undercooked. It is just half-baked. And to be honest, at this point, I'm not even sure if my anger is misplaced on JC staff or if it really is just like Bandai refusing to invest real money behind this project because maybe they're just so content with mediocrity. They know this IP is so popular, people will watch it no matter what. So what's the point in delivering something special? Like, I think that's equally possible as well. Like, maybe they're more to blame than JC staff. Like, maybe they just weren't given enough time or enough resources to make something good. I'm not really sure, but it is just tragic. And I don't think Season 3 is going to get better. I actually think it's only going to get worse with the fights based on these first 2 episodes. But again, I'm making this video hoping that I'm wrong, and it could be something that we look back on and be like, wow, Charlie's no Baba Vanga here. Look at this prediction being super fucking wrong. Well, in that case, it'd make me exactly like Baba Vanga, to be honest. But point is, I'm hoping that all of this is just water under the bridge over the next few weeks as Season 3 of One Punch Man continues, and maybe it gets incredible and it just goes ballistic. Maybe they just wanted the first 2 episodes to look like shit as part of a, you know, galaxy brain plot to make people think it's going to be a bad season, but really it's going to be the best season. It's hard copium from me here, but whatever. What happened to the show I love, man? To see where One Punch Man Season 1 was to where this is now, a decade later, it's been a decade, by the way, and this is only the 3rd season, and it looks this bad. It's just infuriating. It really is. Anyway, though, can't wait for episode 3 here of One Punch Man Season 3. Maybe that's the one where it's gonna really get it together. That's when it all comes together. Anyway, just wanted to yap about this. That's it. See ya. I'm neither ashamed nor embarrassed to admit this. Attack on Titan is a show that's actually pretty special to me. This is the only show I've ever watched as the episodes rolled out from start to finish. Well, soon to be finished. I started watching the show right when it aired back in 2013, and I've followed it ever since. As the episodes rolled right out of the oven nice and fresh with steam still on them, I watched every single episode every week that it was airing. And I've never done that for any show besides this one, at least not for this length of time. Even my favorite show of all time, Breaking Bad, I didn't watch as it aired. I didn't watch that show until it had already finished. And I did it on a whim. I just kind of shrugged my shoulders like, how good could it be? And then I went and binged all of it in a matter of like 3 days. I know it's kind of like admitting to like an unforgivable sin, not watching that show like as it came out and being involved in the hype. But it is what it is. Don't fuck me for it. Code Geass, my favorite anime, another case of I didn't watch it till it finished. It's just, this is the only show, which is wild to think about. It has been 10 years of watching Attack on Titan, and what an absolutely extraordinary journey it has been. It was pretty much a massive success right away, like an overnight mainstream hit, and back in 2013 that wasn't super common. Even back then, your big anime were still like Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, Dragon Ball Z, but Attack on Titan hit the scene and immediately blew people's asses out, just like prolapses across the country as people were talking about Attack on Titan, and I imagine for a lot of people that was their first exposure to anime. I know it was for my roommates back in college. Like, it was a big super success, and it's only grown into the massive behemoth that it is today. And it's just been an extraordinary journey. Now, pardon me, you're entering the splash zone. I'm about to go gushing grannies here because I really do love the show, and it's wrapping up. I'm sure all of you know Attack on Titan's actual final season is airing right now, or the first part of it has dropped, and then the second part is going to be the ending. So they divided the ending into 2 parts. The first one just dropped. This is like my only complaint, by the way. Like, my only major complaint is the way they're handling this. I hate the way they've named these fucking seasons. Like, they had Attack on Titan the final season part 1, which then had a lot of parts to it. And then they had Attack on Titan final season part 2, part 3, and then Attack on Titan final chapters, Turbo Edition, Arcade, XL, Double Magnum. Like, the way they are naming these seasons is beyond convoluted. They had shit like season 4, the final season, part 1, and then 2 parts to that part. So it'd be part 1, and part 2 of part 1. And then now, season 4, part 2, or excuse me, season 4, part 3, and what we just watched, what just dropped was part 1 of part 3 of season 4's final season, which means now part 2 will be coming out later, which is the actual ending. It's fucking dumb, is what I'm saying. There was no reason to name it this way. It just made it really messy, muddy, and just absolute goddamn headache. Like, you could have just called it season 4, right? And they left it at that. You never had to put final season there and associate it with like a final, because it wasn't. It was leading up to the finale, which is what's coming out now. What just dropped could be final part 1 and then final part 2. Like, that'd be a lot easier. But anyway, I'm done ranting about that. It's a super silly decision from the naming department there. Big L on naming. But everything else is a fat fucking W. I want to spend this video kind of going over my entire perspective on Attack on Titan, but I want to briefly give you a quick review of the first part of the finale that just dropped this week. It fucking slaps. I don't understand how Mappa is able to continuously churn out this level of quality of anime with how many projects they take on. They legitimately say yes to more projects than fucking Netflix does. If I was to make a flip book right now and say, you know what, I want this to be an anime, Mappa would probably take on that project and make it look like it would cost $50 million to produce. It is crazy, the quality that they are able to achieve. This is no exception. It is absolutely stunning. And they do use CGI. And they do a great job of integrating it with the anime. A lot of people like to shit on CGI. They start getting into these debates. It's a lot of brouhaha, you know, CGI doesn't belong in anime, it ruins it. I just totally disagree. A lot of anime that has used CGI in the past uses it terribly, and it's dog shit. It looks awful. It's just an eyesore. Mappa does a great job of weaving it beautifully into the piece. And that is very much alive and well in the finale part 1 here. There's a lot of moments of CG, but it still looks great. It doesn't take away from it. It doesn't ruin the experience at all. It is still great to look at. And my God, is it hype. Like I said, I don't want to spoil anything about the finale here, but there is some important moments, especially with a character death, that I think is handled in such an incredibly thrilling way. There's a background track playing. It's a great song as they're just going hog wild, killing titans. It's fucking full throttle, high octane action. And it's just a great send-off to the character. And that's, of course, not the only moment. It's Attack on Titan. That's far from the only death. But I wanted to highlight that because that's something I always appreciate in anime. The ability to make a character death actually fulfilling and satisfying, and making it a moment that makes sense, where it's not just like, we're going to kill this character because we're trying to subvert your expectations. We don't want to get comfortable, so we got to shock you. This is a decision a character makes that is totally logical, and they're a fucking hero for it, and they handle it really well. And I also really like the song that's playing in the background. I love those moments in anime where they have like this fucking track playing, the lyrics are going wild as the characters fighting for their life in a really like big frenzy. It's so cool. It's really great. There's nothing that I disliked about the finale part 1 here. Now, of course, I haven't read the manga. I've actually stopped myself from reading the manga multiple times over the years because I want to experience it in the show first. I do know that the reception to the manga's ending was extremely mixed. I have a good idea on how this wants to wrap itself up, and if I'm right, I won't be disappointed if it goes in that direction, though I could see why others would be. And I just want to put that out there because since we're talking about the finale to Attack on Titan, it would be a disservice not to mention that. I know there were a lot of people that weren't super satisfied. I don't know the ending myself right now. I'm going to keep myself spoiler-free as much as possible. But I do think I know how this is going to conclude. And if it does do it the way I think it will, I won't be one of those people that think it sucks. But we'll see. Maybe it's different than I'm anticipating, and maybe I won't like it. But right now, I fucking love where it's going. I love where the finale leaves off. It's a great cliffhanger that makes me super excited for the second part to drop. And there's never a dull moment in this. This is an hour long, the finale part 1. It's an hour long, and it went by so quick. When it was over, I felt like I had just sat down for like 10 minutes. It was just so much going on, and it was so good. I don't know, I just really fucking loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Attack on Titan is really a show that I feel everyone can find something to like in, even if you're not like a shonen fan. I feel like it offers an extremely unique and fun story that's not afraid to get gruesome and not afraid to kill off beloved characters. It's not afraid to do a lot of things most other anime shy away from. And I appreciate that. Of course, it still has its tropiness, it still has some cliches and some silly shit, but overall, it's just a really well-written story with characters that are super like fleshed out with a lot of depth. The story's gone in directions I would have never been able to predict or anticipate, especially from season 1. I really thought this was just going to be some standard shonen whose claim to fame was creative and beautifully animated action. Season 1 had a lot of great fights, and it still does. Like, it still has amazing action, don't get me wrong. But like right now, the main thing I really appreciate from Attack on Titan is its characters and its story. In season 1, there was a lot of emotional moments, but the main thing people remember is the ODM gear and how fun that was to watch them fucking zip around and slash the necks off of these giant monster titans. It was fucking awesome, and it is still super cool to see that. That has still not lost its charm. But as the show's developed, so too has the characters and even the action, because now they've introduced a lot of titans that fight each other. I'm not going to get into spoilers for what dropped just now, but I am going to get into spoilers for the previous seasons because fucking obviously. So after introducing like the Attack Titan, Armor Titan, and all of that, we got to see more than just the ODM gear. We got to see Titans fighting other Titans, and that's led to a lot of other really creative fights, such as in the last season with Eren versus the Warhammer Titan. All of these moments are just so beautifully animated too. It's a show where it's clear a ton of blood, sweat, tears, and just pure passion gets poured into it. There's just never been a time where Attack on Titan looked bad. There's plenty of things I can understand people like not liking about certain aspects of it, but on the whole, it's a show whose quality has never really wavered, and it's always maintained this extreme level of polish and beauty to it, at least visually. And I really do feel like it presents one of the most compelling narratives I've seen in a long time from anime. I can't get over it because it does something that I always love, making the main character slowly turn into the bad guy. Someone that you start feeling guilty if you're rooting for them. Code Geass is my favorite anime, and it does something very similar with Lelouch. In the beginning, you're pumping your fist. Yeah, Lelouch, man, there's so much fucking trash out there. You know, let's make it better. You're doing great, Lelouch. Oh, yeah, keep clapping cheeks out there, brother. And eventually, he starts doing some real fuck shit and making some truly evil decisions. And you start to wonder, is this a bad guy? Is this the villain now? And as it continues, you keep asking that question until you get to the point where it's like, yep, this is pretty unforgivable shit. But they do a good job of slowly building that up and even giving you reasons why what they're doing is almost justifiable and makes sense that it might even be for the greater good. In Code Geass is what I'm still talking about. Attack on Titan tackles something very similar with its main character, Eren Yeager. He went from the protagonist, he's the Attack Titan, and like a righteous kid. Like, he's always looking out to try and, you know, make sure his comrades are safe, protecting everyone. Just very cliche anime good guy. My friends are the most important thing in the world. We can do anything with the power of friendship. Friendship punch. That kind of shit. But as the show's continued, he's become much less of the good guy, and now he is the main antagonist. Eren Yeager is the ultimate bad guy. He is a genocidal maniac. He is committing mass murder on a global scale with the Rumbling. He now commands an unstoppable force of these colossal titans that nobody has the equipment or the power necessary to deal with. So he is literally trampling all of humanity from outside, all of humanity outside the walls. So he's not the good guy. You can't root for him, but they've built that up slowly, and it wasn't just like this flip of a switch like Game of Thrones Season 8 where Daenerys just starts burning everyone to death like, I guess I'll be evil now. This was slowly built up and really feels very natural for the character. Like, his reasoning, you can almost rationalize too. His entire race, the Eldians, were treated like devils, isolated to this, you know, complete podunk corner of the world, behind these walls, cut off from the rest of civilization for 100 years. And now he just bears all of this hatred from the world that the world put onto them. He is now the embodiment of that hatred and is projecting it out against the rest of them in order to protect his group, the Eldians, the ones behind the walls. So, like, it's terrible what he's doing, but he does have his own reasons for it. Of course, it's not, like, a great reason for actual genocide, but It's, of course, a reason, one that's not just like cartoonishly evil, twirling his mustache like, I just want humanity to die. I just really appreciate what they've done with his character in particular. They've done a great job with all the characters, but that is always something I can commend. It's such a big risk to take. Your main character, the protagonist, and making them the bad guy eventually. It's just such a bold move. Like, that shit is a Hail Mary, and if you flop around, you waffle about, you start to fuck it up, then you ruin the entire experience and everyone hates it. But luckily that's not the case here. And every character gets moments to shine, which is beyond impressive. Even characters who in the beginning were very minor characters got blown into these big roles. Like, they took on these huge responsibilities and shined. And characters that seemed like they were going to be there for the long haul died, but they didn't just die in like pathetic, wimpy, weak, not satisfying ways. They go out like fucking heroes. And it's, like I said, it's a show that wasn't afraid to take those risks. My favorite character in the show is Erwin. Erwin died quite some time ago. He hasn't been in this in years now, but his presence is still felt. They still talk about him. He still had an incredible impact, even currently, on where this story has unfolded. And that's something that just very few things can do. Usually when a character dies, their influence is no longer felt and they just kind of, peter out, just kind of fizzle away. But not in this show. Characters are still referenced and they are still integral to the development of the characters that are still alive, and they carry on certain things from the deceased ones. It's just beautiful. I really think it's just a masterpiece of anime. I can't talk highly enough about it. But anyway, I think I've sucked the show's dick enough by now, so I'll go ahead and just leave it at that. If you haven't seen Attack on Titan, I do highly recommend it, and I really liked the finale part 1, and am super excited for the second part. That's about it. See ya. Hold your horses. No, this video is not about One Punch Man Season 3. If anyone out there has eyeballs and you've unfortunately subjected them to the torture of One Punch Man Season 3, you probably know that not much has changed since the last video I made on it in terms of how disastrous this season has been. But I want to give credit where credit is due. The most recent episode, episode 8, is the first time this season I felt like I was actually watching an animated series. We had a fight sequence with characters that actually moved in this episode. Whoopee! Yeah, we fucking got there, baby. Anything is possible! This is the first episode where the fight scenes actually have motion. There are moments in the flashy flash fight that I think are really good. Is it perfect? No. But compared to the rest of the dog shit we've been fed, this was a gourmet meal of an episode. And I think what this shows, at least to me personally, is that JC Staff can deliver quality at least to the same level they did in Season 2 of One Punch Man, which in hindsight, pretty solid, but Bandai is the reason why Season 3 is so shitty, because of lack of budget they were willing to allocate to the season, lack of time they gave JC Staff to work on it. Somehow they still had it be just like rushed out and farted whatever they could get on the table. Even though it's been 6 years since Season 2, I think Bandai is the main villain here that has caused Season 3 to be so awful, so rough. And Episode 8, I think, is irrefutable evidence that JC Staff can deliver good quality animation if they have resources and time to do so, which Bandai deprived them of, just left them fucking emaciated, malnourished with no money and no time to work on it. But I was pleasantly surprised at the quality of Episode 8. The flashy flash fight, I thought, was really solid overall. It doesn't salvage Season 3, like it doesn't redeem it, but it is a nice treat. There's only a handful of episodes left in Season 3, so this is very tardy to the party here. This would be like me finally hitting a growth spurt and reaching 6 feet tall by the time I'm 85 years old. You know, at the ripe age of 85, I'm finally living my dream of being 6 feet tall. But you know, it's a little late. Kind of cool anyway, I guess, though. Point is, I'm glad Episode 8 was good. It's finally a step in the right direction, and maybe I'm just suckling on the supple bosom of hopium. Maybe I'm just latched onto the titty here. But maybe this is a sneak peek at things to come, that the next handful of episodes, it's going to finish on a high note instead of this sad whimper that the rest of the season has been. Probably unlikely, but who knows. What I do know is that we here at Cheeky decided to extend the Black Friday sales offer to today. So today will be the final day for the 20% off of all of our soaps using any creator codes. So go to usecheeky.com right now to get the best soap in the universe at an incredible deal. Anyway, like I said, this video is not even about One Punch Man, but I wanted to mention that really quick. This video is actually about a different anime, one that a while ago I said I didn't like. And I dropped it after like 5 or so episodes. It just wasn't hitting for me. But recently I wanted to give it another shake, another spin, because I've seen perpetual glaze for it, and I thought, let's just really commit to it and let's watch the series. And I really, really like it. Frieren. Frieren is a show that I'm sure you've probably heard of in some capacity because people love this show. And when I initially watched it when it first came out, I just had a hard time getting into it. Like, it was a very nice looking show and it was very comfy and cozy, but I just wasn't getting invested into the world or the characters. But I just keep seeing and have always seen so much praise for it that I just thought, you know what, let's just watch the whole thing, and if it's really not for me, it's not for me, but at least I, consumed the entire thing to know for sure. Which is typically not a philosophy I subscribe to. I think, like One Piece, for example. I, out of spite, committed to watching the entire One Piece series, but it took me like fucking 400 episodes to fall in love with it. I don't think it's reasonable or rational to expect everyone else to go through with that level of headstrong commitment for something that you weren't immediately loving. I think it's totally okay to drop something after a few episodes if it's just not feeling like it vibes with you. But for Frieren, I just continue to see amazing things, so I said, let's do it. I want to give it another shot, and I'm really happy I did, because this time around, I genuinely thought it was like a masterpiece. I think Frieren is incredible, and now I'm super pumped for Season 2. I think it was such an amazing experience. I don't know what demon crawled up my ass the first time I watched this, but it must have been clouding my vision with sin and folly, because I was a big dummy back then, I suppose. And looking back on it, it's weird because I've never had an issue with slow burn in media, whether it's games, movies, shows. In fact, some of my favorite are more of a slow burn experience, which Frieren definitely is. But I don't know, I guess just initially I didn't get hooked by the concept, and Frieren as a character wasn't someone that I felt I could care about across many episodes. And I think that's probably because the show does something I don't think any other shows I've ever seen have done. It starts you at the end of a hero's journey. Frieren's previous party had just completed the major task, defeating the ultimate evil, saving the world. You as the viewer don't get to see that happen. You don't watch the show that focused on that hero's journey. You are watching the show of what happens next through the eyes of Frieren, who is an immortal being. She is an elf, so the 10 years they spent on that journey saving the world, that's not even a blip on the radar of her overall lifespan. And the way she views the world around her is very distant and removed emotionally, because everything she is experiencing is so trivial in the grand scheme of her never-ending life. Her extraordinarily long life, all of this will be meaningless at some point. So she's very apathetic. There was a comparison I drew on my first watch that I still think is somewhat applicable, where there is a game, an amazing game I played a long time ago on the Xbox 360 called Lost Odyssey, that kind of tackles occasionally similar things as Frieren through some short stories in the game. And I don't know, I think maybe I just got the wrong impression for what the show was really about and where the show was going, because I didn't give it enough of a chance. But I'm just so happy I went back to watch Frieren, because this show really is special. And even the first 4 or 5 episodes this time around, I was a lot more gripped by. And the show does, really gather a lot of steam after you get through, the initial building blocks and the foundation that it lays. My initial impressions of Frieren was that she was just going to be kind of a generic stoic character, an immortal, where everyone she could ever care about will die, so what's the point in caring? Which is something I've seen in other shows where they have a character that feels kind of like a robot, like an emotionless husk. And I thought that's what they were setting Frieren up to be, where eventually they'd start to crack that shell slowly but surely. She is immortal, time is very different to her, but she has emotions. She has tons of emotions, and she conveys them in her own way, and she subtly changes as well in her own way as a result of all of her experiences and everyone that she meets. And she starts to have regrets, and she starts to care to learn about these people that she has a party with. So it's a very cool growth to see across the season, and I just think the show is beautifully done. It has action too. It's not like just dialogue and doing chores. Granted, a lot of it is them making stops in their journey to do certain things, but the stops are also a really valuable experience too, and they're not like boring or anything. I actually think some of the stops are the most memorable parts of the show, with what you get to learn and what comes from their experiences at these stops, where she's like collecting grimoires and whatever is payment. It's just unlike anything I'd seen before, and I think my initial impressions were that it was going to be like kind of boring, maybe even slice of lifey, so I just maybe didn't tune out and connect with the themes. But going back this time around, man, it fucking hits. Time has always been like a very grand, scary concept to me. In fact, 2 of my tattoos are time-oriented pieces, as corny as that sounds. It's just so interesting the things you can play with in this ballpark when it comes to time. And the way Frieren uses it with her, I think is brilliant. The show is just truly a complete package. It is visually breathtaking. I think they've knocked it out of the park with the animation. The emotional beats really resonate with viewers clearly, because it's like one of the top rated anime of all time. But like even me personally, a lot of like the themes that we're coming across, like they do hit, and it feels very poignant. Like it is a well-executed show when it comes to its emotional moments, and its characters, I feel like, have a lot of depth and are very well fleshed out and established, and it makes you care about them and their journey. And it does also have action, and I think the action is great. I'll probably wait to do a full review on Frieren after Season 2, because it's right around the corner. But for now, I just wanted to put this out here about how wrong I was with my initial impressions of Frieren. This show slaps. I think Frieren is a masterpiece. So I definitely get the glaze now. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. That's about it. So yeah. I imagine based on the title, some of you were expecting this to be about something that it's just not going to be about. One Punch Man. No, it's still very trash. My video hasn't aged poorly yet, but I'm holding on to hope, fingers crossed with a rabbit's foot up my asshole, that the next episode, which should be all fighting, is beautifully animated, because so far, I don't know where the budget went, because it is not anywhere noticeable in the show to this point. It's basically just the same as it was when I made the video a couple weeks ago. In fact, I would argue it got even worse. In episode 3, there is a, I shit you not, and I've said that 3 times now in talking about One Punch Man, because it sounds exaggeratory, but I'm being literal. There's even a Reddit thread showcasing it and talking about it. In episode 3, there is an actual 2-minute scene that consists of 9 frames. They didn't want to use flashbacks, so instead they used still frames, because I imagine they didn't want to use flashbacks because people would see a huge discrepancy in the quality from early One Punch Man to what you are now experiencing the fucking train wreck with Season 3. So they have a 2-minute scene of exposition that is 9 frames. It is a fucking PowerPoint. It is so sad. And the one little tiddlywink we got of a fight was nerfed from what we were expecting to get. It even had a pretty laughable error where it made one of the male characters, one of the combatants in the fight, have titties. Because the animator that was tasked with it, I think, got confused on the character that they were animating. It's just a mess. And the more I've read about it, the more I realize it's probably not even JC staff to blame. This really seems like it goes all the way up the food chain to Bandai. It seems like they tried to feed JC staff scraps when it comes to budget, and then try and just fart out something as quickly as possible, giving it no time to breathe or marinate, or like actually deliver something of quality. So while JC staff may not have been the best studio pick to begin with, this isn't their genre of animation they do. And as far as I know, the director also doesn't work on this kind of stuff. It's, from what I understand, more spicy material. So, like, while they may not have been optimal picks, it was made significantly worse because of how little Bandai seemed to care about quality. From everything I can find, it seems like Bandai just wanted to do this for as cheaply as possible. And even though it's been 6 years since Season 2, they still just wanted to rush something out. Like, I don't know how you can put your fingers up your ass for so long doing nothing with a property as beloved and as popular as One Punch Man and as desired as One Punch Man, and then just be more than happy to spend no money on it, choose your cheapest options every step of the way, and then just have this diarrhea displayed here to fans of the property. I actually blame Bandai far more than I do JC staff. And I also know that the director of Season 3 has just completely quit social media because he's been being harassed by fans so much. And I think that shit sucks. He shouldn't have been harassed or anything like that. I truly think he is not solely to blame or anything for Season 3's disaster here. I really think it's not entirely his fault or anything like people are trying to say it is. He had basically an impossible task with no money to even give it like a real, try with gusto. Now, I have now ranted about One Punch Man Season 3 for over 2 minutes of this video, and this video is not even supposed to be about One Punch Man, but I am just so passionately upset about the state of this property that I love so fucking dearly with how bad Season 3 is. But like I said, I'm doing everything I can to hold on to that glimmer of hope that maybe the fights are where they were cooking. I'm rolling my eyes into the back of my skull. I'm trying to awaken my Sharingan. If this was the Warhammer 40k universe, I'd be like one of the fucking orc shamans trying to actually like project through belief and bring into reality a good fucking episode of One Punch Man. I am so desperate for it. We'll see. Only a couple days away, and we'll see if maybe the fights are where it shines. Anyway, I've yapped about this for over 2.5 minutes in a video that's not even supposed to be about One Punch Man. This is supposed to be about a different anime that fell off a cliff many years ago that a lot of people dropped and since had been spitting on it for years now. But I think the latest season, which is the final season, is really good. And I even think the season before this, it started to find its footing, and now it's really starting to pay off. My Hero Academia. When My Hero Academia premiered, it was a breakout success, an international success that was reaching levels like Attack on Titan. And it, over time, started to lose its luster. For me, the show really started to get stinky when All Might was no longer the commanding presence that he was. I think he was the most compelling piece of My Hero Academia, and no one was really there to fill that void. So after his character arc was complete, it really felt like most viewers started to tune out and not care as much. And I also don't think it helps that the show started to really focus on shit that I think most people don't give a fuck about. Like throwing a successful, carnival. Well, not a carnival, I guess, per se. But just like slice of life shit and very underwhelming villains that they'd introduce, like Gentle or something like that. Just really lame things. And it felt like the show went into this fugue state where it was focusing on these boring aspects. And many people, myself included, I think just started to collectively drop it. But now that the show has progressed so much since then, a lot of the big story arcs are now reaching their climax. Last season, it was setting up all the pieces on the chessboard while also having extremely hype moments with great fights. Like, everything that'd been building for almost a decade now is reaching its ending, and it's very satisfying to watch. It's beautifully animated. It's finally hype again, and it's really good. This season, I think, has been spectacular. There hasn't been a dull moment. There hasn't been anything, like, weak about it. I feel like it's gone in a really good direction, and it is delivering on the hype that it used to have. And it's just been a very refreshing thing to see. You finally get things like Bakugo and Midoriya teaming up to try and take down what feels like insurmountable foes with All For One and Shigaraki, who's now become basically the fucking devil, evil incarnate, like actual god mode being on this planet that just wants to see everything upended. He wants it to all just burn, rot, decay. How do you beat them? And it's just been really fun. I'm just happy that, and I know how the show ends. I don't love like the ending. I read the manga's ending. Not my favorite. That one gets a bit of a woof from me. But I still think that the journey here is really good getting there. And maybe they change things around in the ending a little bit to make it better. I don't know. I mean, That doesn't really often happen, but you never know. And it's not the worst ending I've ever read or anything. We're not talking platinum end levels of trash ending. Anytime I bring up bad endings, I cannot help myself but mention that show. I'll give you a brief synopsis for why I hate that fucking ending so much. It is the goofiest thing I've ever seen to this day. Platinum End was an anime that I was very excited for, written by the creator of Death Note. It's a pretty cool premise. God is withering away and he's choosing his successor because there needs to be a god. So these angels go out and they choose their champion, basically. And they choose people that were suicidal, like tried to take their own life because they believe that those people are the best candidates because they understand life more so than people that haven't gone through that kind of hardship. So they each choose a champion, and then it's a battle to choose the next god. They fight each other. One thing leads to another. There's a character that's introduced that says point blank numerous times, if I am chosen to be God, if you guys decide that it should be me that ultimately becomes God, I will kill myself. First day on the job, I am taking my own life. And they're like, okay, that's not good. We can't really have that because everything would be destroyed. Like, everything would be ruined with that. So they kind of sideline that idea until the very end. They then choose that guy to be God. They then decide, you know what, that actually is like a really great idea. Let's have that guy who has told us exactly what he's going to do be God. And lo and behold, he gets the position, it submits the resume, he wins, and pretty much immediately, he kills himself. And in doing so, all of humanity dies with him. And they're like surprised by it. It is so stupid. And that's the end of the show. Humanity's dead. He did exactly as advertised. He took his own life. Everyone dies with him. And then there's like a little dialogue at the end about like, you know, how everything unfolded from some other beings. Stupidest fucking ending ever. So I can confidently tell you My Hero Academia's ending is not nearly to that level. But I just personally don't like it. I really like everything leading up to it so far, though, and I am, like, very off on a bunch of tangents here in this video. It's 5 a.m. I haven't slept. I'm sure you could probably fucking tell. But the point I'm making here is My Hero Academia is finally back. Now, I don't think everyone's gonna like it, and I always hear about, like, the fan base being weird. I don't typically engage too much in, like, fandom conversation or anything. But I do think something people probably won't like, especially if you previously liked the show for its early seasons that most people glaze. 99% of those characters are just poofed out of existence, basically. You just have to forget they exist. You have to just, in your mind, throw them into the back rooms, because you are not going to see them shine at all. The vast majority of the characters that were introduced early on have very little to do here. They do try and shine a light on some of the more key characters from back then for like special moments, but on the whole, a lot of characters you might remember from back then, they didn't get picked for the kickball team this time around. They have been sidelined, they are riding the bench, and like I said, they do try and give some special moments to them, but it's nothing extraordinary. Be like, everyone's doing their part, look! This character from Season 1 just made 5 toothpicks because Bakugo had something in his teeth. We're all contributing. And it's like, okay. Like, what's even the point of showing that little piece? It's clearly just to remind you, like, we know the characters are here, but they're clearly not strong enough to do anything. Only the key characters have the power to be able to fight in stakes to this level. And for me personally, I think it's fine. I do think there will be a lot of people that have an issue with that, though, because they did spend so much time with a lot of those characters that now basically do nothing at the end. It is what it is. It was a huge cast. They weren't all going to be able to do cool stuff here. I'm actually impressed that they were able to do so much with so many characters here in the last 2 seasons. A lot of them I didn't think they'd give any attention to did actually have big moments. So overall, I do think the last 2 seasons, and this season especially, have been My Hero Academia fucking shining. It's been going plus ultra. Animation, everything has, I think, been significantly better, getting back to its former glory. So I just wanted to put that out there because I know most people still poo-poo on it. Most people are still under the impression that My Hero Academia is, you know, dog shit or whatever. And I just want to tell you, it's not. I certainly don't think it is. I've been enjoying it. That's really about it. So yeah. One of the key lessons anime teaches its viewers is about the power of friendship and to never give up. There's always hope. But that's fantasy. In real life, you have no friends. Everyone hates you, and One Punch Man Season 3, there is no such thing as hope. Abandon all faith, because this show is just irredeemable, it seems. Episode 5 just aired, which is the one where I was trying so hard to buy into the hopium that the community was spreading about how this is where the budget went. This is what they were saving all of their resources for. Because the first 4 episodes of the show, it wasn't really animated, like, at all. There were a couple moments like Garo fighting for a brief second where they had a few moving frames, but otherwise it's fundamentally still images. You get more movement if you finger through the pages of the One Punch Man manga. Like, you just riffle through the pages, you'll see more movement than you will in the fucking animated show. In Season 3, Episode 5, this was supposed to be the big one. Like, this could have been a peak fight, and people were so desperate to latch on to the titty of faith that this would be good. 'Cause it should be. But it aired, and I haven't seen a single person defend it. The best thing that can be said about Episode 5 of One Punch Man is that it's the best episode of the season. But that's like saying a fart is a little less stinky than a shart. Like, sure, that is technically true, but does it make it that much better? Not really. And you can see this reflected in Season 3's rating compared to the previous 2 seasons. It's 5s across the board except for Episode 5, which is a 6.3, which I still think is too high. Like, I think that even for a 6.3, this is overrated. It's just, we've been eating shit for 4 weeks now, and now they served us poop. Yippee! It's not good. And like I said in the last video, I really believe that the main target for Spitballs for this catastrophic, disastrous season should be Bandai. Yes, JC Staff is not the optimal pick for One Punch Man. They should not have been the first round draft pick for Season 3 of One Punch Man, and I imagine they were chosen by Bandai because they were the cheapest option. Yes, the director of Season 3 was not the best pick. This is not his genre. This is not his wheelhouse. But still, there could have been a chance to produce something of high quality here if Bandai was more willing to put some actual fucking elbow grease into this property. A massive property, by the way. I don't even know why they have it when it seems like they just don't want it. Like, they truly just want to just slap garbage out there with it. I don't see why Bandai even has the rights to it. But, like, they still could have made something good here. And there's further evidence to support this game theory of mine here, you know, this fucking crackpot conspiracy theory, because there's an animator named Van Oba, who I think is very talented, who was hyping up Episode 5 because he got to work on it. He got to produce some cuts for Episode 5 that he was very proud of, and when the episode aired, he got to see them finished for the first time in the show, and he too was very disappointed, even saying how unfortunate it was. So there is clearly a huge disconnect here, because there is talent involved, but there's something going real fucking cattywampus, and there's something that's gone awry, and it's leading to this subpar trash that's being spewed out with Season 3. So even someone's great work, like from Van Oba, is not getting a chance to shine here in Season 3. I really wanted to show you a couple clips from Episode 5 here, because like I said, it is the best of the season so far, but that's such an incredibly low bar. The reason it's the best of the season is because Van Oba did actually make an animated sequence. He actually had some good cuts in here, even though they didn't get utilized super well in the episode. At least there was that. So there was moments where Garo was actually moving for the first time, not just a PNG that was being dragged around like when he fucking slid down the hill, which has become a huge meme now. Like, there were a couple of moments that showed some fluidity. It showed, like, some glimmer of care here. But the vast majority of the episode is still so incredibly stiff. It looks like me trying to get up my fucking stairs. Everything is like so like robotic and janky looking. Like, it is just, it is not in a good state. At points it just looks embarrassing. It's mainly composed of still images. Even in this episode where this was apparently where like all the nuts went, like this was supposed to be the big one, and it's still just so flat. So the Orochi fight just doesn't hit that hard. Like, it is still the equivalent of me going picture, 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 did you enjoy my animation? It just makes me so upset. Like, the final sequence of Garo versus Orochi here in the episode is like one-to-one with the manga panels, where Garo's in the air, about to deliver a big blow, then it cuts to his face, and then it cuts to him in the wall. And in the manga, I think that works just fine. I think it's very hype in the manga. But watching it in an anime format, it feels unfinished. It looks like it was an editing mistake. So if you haven't read the manga, I imagine you probably scratch your head going like, well, what just happened? Did they forget something here? And the answer is no, they just decided to just take still images from the manga and then just put them on the screen and be done. And if you read the manga, like I imagine anyone that would try and like cope by saying the episode's not that bad is a big manga reader, so they'll give like a little leniency there because it's something they've wanted to see for a long time, and the fact that it's here at all is probably satisfactory to them, even if it's in such a poor, pitiful state as it is in season 3. But if you haven't read the manga, it just looks so disjointed, it looks like it was an editing mistake that was kept in by accident. However, objection, I'm going to argue against myself here, I think even manga readers should be disappointed by this because there is so much cut content here. They removed so much that was present in the manga, so that way they could condense all of this into a single episode, this ball of filth, this fucking rancid testicle, so they could make everything fit here almost, and they just wiped their ass with tons and tons that was present in the manga. So like I feel like it should be underwhelming to literally anybody. Anyone that's read the manga, anyone that has eyeballs, it should just be obvious to everyone that this is a very weak season of any show. Even if it wasn't a property as big and as beloved as One Punch Man, I really think anyone that would watch this would be like, oh, this is not very good compared to everything else that we get, because it's just not. And it's a shame. It's really a tragedy, honestly. And I can't stop yapping about it, because I am very surprised at just how rough it is. Like, Season 2 got a lot of criticism, including from me, for being much worse than Season 1. Season 1, I guess, was kind of lightning in a bottle, magic that they're never going to be able to recreate, but Season 2 was a big step down from that in the animation department, but it was still held up well by mostly everything else. Like, the pacing worked, the writing was still hitting, the characters were still great. In Season 3, it's 6 years later, you would think that after the criticism when it came to animation in Season 2, that'd be one of the main things they'd want to improve on. But somehow they went 10 steps backwards. It is significantly worse than Season 2 animation, and I really think because of how disjointed everything is, a lot of the jokes and the pacing are not working anymore. So everything just feels flat. There is just so little to like about Season 3. It's just so fucking sad. Because again, I know talented people are working on this, like Van Oba. But there is something in this pipeline, whether it's because they've been resource-starved by Bandai or something, that is just ruining it. And it sucks to see. It really does. I know I've made 3 videos now yapping about Season 3. I haven't been this passionately upset with something since Game of Thrones Season 8. Like, that's how bad this has been to me. Of course, Game of Thrones Season 8 I think is worse, but even still, this one hurts a lot because of how much I love One Punch Man. It's really just infuriating. There's a couple other things I could go on about, but I know I've been blabbering for a while now about this. But another thing is, this season, for some reason, has this idea in its head that if you just put like a blue filter on things, it means it's stylistically hype. So there are so many like iconic panels from the manga that in this season are just worse and painted blue. Like, there's just this blue hue to them. Not even blue hue. The whole thing is just fucking blue. It's like Eiffel 65. Like, every time there's like a really cool shot, it's just blue. Like, they translate it to just being blue for no reason. So, like, so much of this just feels like a mess. And like I said, this episode did have a couple of moments that showed, like, a decent moment, and then is ruined by everything that surrounds it and everything that follows it. And they cut out, like, some, like I already mentioned, they cut out a lot from the manga, but some of the things they cut out made no sense why they wouldn't be here, because I think it's, like, very important to have it there. Like, Garo eating the arm. Like, there is... I'm about to go on too big of a tangent here, and I know you're probably tired of hearing me yap about it. Point is, Season 3 is really just bad. And the big episode here with the Orochi fight was supposed to maybe be its saving grace to finally give you something to appreciate, and it fell right on its fucking face, which is a shame. I feel really bad for all of the animators that have put a lot of work into this and have tried their best to make something here, and it's just whatever's going on at the upper level here with, you know, Bandai's lack of resources perhaps, or what have you, is just not leading to it being in the best form it can be. Because like I said, Van Oba proves there are talented people that are putting work into this. But something has gone wrong here with the production that is leading to it just not working out. And it sucks. It is really such a shame. The best outcome from season 3 is that they just close the book here. Maybe they just say, all right, you know what, season 3 was a mistake. This is really bad. Episode 5 is the end of the season. We're gonna redo this later down the line. We're gonna remake season 3 here. It's the only way forward. That's really the only thing that I can picture that can save this, is just we forget that it happened. It's not canon. It was all just a dream, and we get a different season 3 later on that's much better. Because again, I just don't see any saving this season. So anyway, that's really about it. So yeah. This is a video I've debated making for the last week or so. For the first time in the 15 years I've been on YouTube, it's a video that I've actually been afraid to make because it's a dangerous topic. It's touchy. It's anime. And anime fans can get wild. They always say war is hell, but I think war is child's play compared to an argument with a weeb. I also recently learned about antimatter, and it's the only thing in the universe that releases 100% of its energy in like this devastating explosion. And that's also wrong, because weebs do that too when they find out that you don't like their favorite waifu. The point I'm making is things can get very ugly when you criticize or talk about anime negatively. Expect an unholy, diabolical meltdown on Twitter attacking you for weeks for it. I still, to this day, have not heard the end of how wrong I am for not liking JoJo's Part 3 and 4 as much as I liked Parts 1 and 2. And I mentioned that a single time in a video over a year ago. So let that shit sink in. For what it's worth, I just finished Part 5, that shit slapped. Part 5 was great. So, let's get to what I want to talk about today. The main thing that I just dislike about anime. I'm sure all of you know by now, but I watch a lot of anime. You could probably guess that just by taking a single glance at me. If I walk by you in public, you would probably assume that I watched anime just by the way I look. I stared too long into the abyss of anime, and it stared back into me. I even bought a body pillow at one point, so, you know, God bless. But the thing is, no matter how much anime I watch, there is one thing that always makes me uncomfortable with how common it is in the medium. And you probably already know what I'm going to bring up. It's anime's fixation on making all of the characters kids or very kid-like, for no reason. Now, I'm not specifically talking about lollies. I'm sure you know what lollies are. If you don't, you know, all power to you. Your innocence is intact. But I'll go ahead and ruin Christmas for you. Lollies are an anime where they have a character that looks like a child, but is actually a 4,000-year-old dragon cum vampire who's highly sexualized, but looks like a child. They're called lollies. They're not actually children, because in the show they're supposed to be much older, but they look like kids, and it's pretty weird. That shit's always going to be weird to me, but it's not even exactly what I'm focusing on here. I'm talking about in the shows where they just actually outright make them children. For example, Tokyo Revengers. It's a show I really like. It's a show I moist metered recently. The first season wrapped up. I gave it like a 90%. I thought the show was fantastic. But in the show, all of the characters are middle schoolers. And it does nothing for the plot, because they're middle schoolers, but you never see their parents. Their schools don't have any effect on the plot at all. Sometimes they'll be in school, but they immediately leave, so it's not like integral to the plot at all. Most of the time they just don't go, and that's not even a plot point, like, oh, I'm skipping school, I'm fucking dope and breaking rules, I'm a bad boy. It is literally them just middle schoolers, but they're basically just adults anyway. They have motorcycles that they ride around, they get in gang fights and shit like that. So the question becomes, why make them middle schoolers? Why keep driving home this idea that these characters are 14 and 15? It just makes it really weird when they do adult shit, like one of the girls trying to fuck one of the guys, and she's in like her bra and panties about to have sex. It's weird because they've drilled into you that these are all middle schoolers around here. But they didn't need to be. These could have very easily just been adults. If you took a tally of every single protagonist across every anime ever made, I'd wager about 85% of all main characters in anime are 15 years old. That is the most common age of every character of every major anime, it feels like. But it never plays a role in anything. them being kids. You know, it's not like that's ever an actual point in these shows, like, oh, fuck, I can't go to this gang fight because I have to go do my algebra homework, otherwise my parents are going to spank me and dad's going to bring out the belt and take away my PlayStation. The characters being children is always just so useless because they could have easily just been adults and it wouldn't have taken away from anything. It's just weird. I don't really get it. And what really prompted me to make this video, or make me want to make this video over the last week or so, is I'm watching a currently airing anime called Platinum End, and it's dog shit. It is an actual pair of bull nuts. It's terrible. But I'm watching it because it's made by the creator of Death Note, so I at least gave it a chance. And I'm going to finish it just because I've already watched so much of it, but it's not good. But one thing that really was like drove home this idea of what is the point of making the characters kids is there's spoilers coming up, I guess, but I don't think you should watch it, so I wouldn't really worry about spoilers. I'm doing you a favor, if anything. One of the main bad guys is a kid. He's a middle schooler, and he has the ability to control the minds, basically, of anyone he shoots with an arrow, and he uses the arrow on a middle school girl. And she gets shot with this love arrow, and what she does is she just starts fucking other middle school girls. And they show her, like, almost fully nude, making out with middle school girls, about to fuck them, finger blast them, you know, go wild. It shows you that in the show. And it's super weird because they keep driving home this idea constantly that that is a middle schooler. She is 13 or 14, whatever, years old. They even in the show, they call her the middle school serial killer because she's a middle schooler, and after she fucks the girls, she kills them. It's just super creepy because they are establishing that this is a child that we almost watch have sex with another child in the show. Now, of course, it's all cartoons. I can't use the C word here when talking about anime. People get very upset. It is a 2D animation. I understand they're not real kids or anything, but that doesn't make it any less creepy. It could have just easily been avoided if these were adults, because they could have been. Again, in Platinum End, the school doesn't have any effect at all. The only thing the school has done is establish that the main character's been bullied. But he could have also just been an adult who had been bullied throughout his entire life in school. I don't think there's been a single scene in this entire show that has been at the school other than at the very front where he was hiding in the background. So them being in school is useless because it is never a part of the actual show. Them being 14 and 15. They could just be adults and it wouldn't be weird. You could have adult characters instead of kids doing these adult things, these sexual things, you know? Now, I'm not saying every single anime has to be like 40-year-old grizzled war veterans for characters or anything, but there's a lot of shows where them being kids is just a completely useless plot point, and because it doesn't actually play a role in the plot. Them being kids doesn't matter, like the two examples I just gave you. But then there are shows where it does matter that they're kids. Something like Assassination Classroom, right? They are kids in class. They're at school. The majority of that show takes place in a school setting. So obviously there's still a lot of shows where them being kids is actually important to the story and couldn't work with them being older. So I'm not saying everything in anime needs to be adults only. That's just called hentai, I suppose. I'm just saying there's a lot of shows where the characters are kids just because they wanted to make them children for no reason, but then they still want them to like fucking things, which makes it really uncomfortable to watch because they could have just made them adults. I've said that like 20 times by now, but there are really just so many shows where I'll sit there and watch it and I'm like, damn, this is a good show. And then it's like, but why are they kids? What was the point? What did that add to this? I just don't really get it. And that's just my main thing I don't like about anime. It's not like I'm over here, you know, slapping a Bible and saying we gotta ban anime because think of the kids or whatever. But it is weird. Like, it is just kind of embarrassing. But yeah, I just wanted to toss this out there. You know, it's not like I'm canceling my Crunchyroll subscription, I'm burning my manga and destroying my anime Blu-rays or anything like that. I'm still gonna keep watching anime. The fucking Jujutsu Kaisen movie is one of my most anticipated movies that I can even think of. I'm super hyped for that. I just wanted to at least put this out there, just because I've been thinking about it since I've been watching that garbage Platinum End. And I mentioned it on stream once, so I figured might as well make a video talking about it. That's about it. So yeah.